Hey, how y'all doing this evening? This is Shai. It is February 26, 2021 on their Gregorian calendar. Um, Yesterday, I did do on February 25th, 2021, the video 1 for Divine Wisdom, the Spirit of Truth, recorded session with tongues, video 3. I did that yesterday. Okay. And so this is a brand new day. Like I told y'all, I'm going to only do 2 segments at a time. More like a window, but 2 segments at a time. And so I'm back on a fresh day at 4:26 p.m. So I'm going to try to wrap this up with this. I'm going to probably, if I get a chance Sunday, I'll start on the 5th one to try to jump ahead because I tried to. I already got on my dinner prepared. Cooking right now as the Sabbath coming in. But I am gonna try to do the 5th one Sunday to set, like I said, the 7 days, so then I can be ahead, especially when I'm gonna jump back to doing chapter 5, unfolding the Proverbs. Now, for the sake of time, I'm probably gonna be doing like maybe 4 to 5 chapters of Proverbs in that series. I'm going to be picking up on chapter 5, but I'll probably do like 5 through 10 or 5 through 11. I'll balance it out and see, within those videos how many I should do that's left because it's only 31 chapters of Proverbs for us, with the King James Version. And I just wanted to let y'all know this too. When Jezebel and Ahab got a hold of the text, because you gotta understand, Ahab was already part of the Hebrew Israelites, or I would say Israelite heritage, and she married into him, which is Phoenician. So that's why when you go through the ancient civilizations, you would get a different depiction, or you can't tell the difference because it's the same culture. No, it really wasn't. She made it be like that. She wanted to come in and change all the ways of her fathers and her forefathers and where she came from. He didn't have no idea what he was marrying as well. And so she wanted to come in and change and do a lot of the Phoenician, the Canaanite women, which we know Canaanite women had brown skin as well, in this skin complexion. I mean, we have that. We already know what African about Ham seed. And so it gives you a little bit more clarity for those the missing links, for those who was always wondering or was trying to figure out how is it connected. But what is our language? What are their language? And yeah, she's infiltrated some of the culture of, like I said, the Phoenicians in the language. That's why you get Yahweh up inside our text of now in this generation, century and centuries. You got to understand, ever since she came on the scene, that has been the whole effect throughout centuries, because that's what Ahab and Jezebel did. And then it also, you have to remember, they put a lot of women in men's midst, so they've been following that way for centuries. Even now, we have proof in our reality and everything that's happening that this has been infiltrated in the culture of all nations. And guess what? That's what's going on. Man and woman idol worshiping, as if they didn't have a mother and father in heaven, like they didn't just totally forgot their whole way of life and went on whatever they wanted to, or what the serpent seed had brought. So that's the connection with that, is that she incorporated, because ours was Yahweh. It sounded like, right? Then you say Yahweh. No, Yahweh is not the same pronunciation or spelling, decoding words to just clarify things as Yahweh is in the meaning. So she used a lot of truth and a lot of things she took and critique and manipulated to give you truth in a delusion form, so you wouldn't really look further than something else that actually is right there in front of you. It's right there in front of you. Yahweh is right there in front of you. But it's the Yahweh thing. People get stuck on the history of Jezebel and Ahab, and they don't understand, like, the Spirit had to come teach us this. You see why? Because the book that we're holding are mistranslated. And it also is a book that also giving us clarity and assurance of all the things that had happened. How can one book, surely the Bible is just a magical book, huh? See, the reason why they can't kill it because of the history that's tied to it, okay? And of course, they would have needed something to keep the slaves in submission. It wasn't going to be physical. They could have kept on dying physical for it and doing what they do. They needed something to make them stay, something to make them believe in life and in their new system and new way. So they couldn't destroy it because they know, you know. And plus, like I say, it's some of their gods too and what they needed to do. So when we look at that situation, why we have to go back to that is because that is where it started for the Phoenician Canaanite woman and the mixed heritages of the Israelite, the Adesian woman, into that. You know, how we have flipped to the other side, and that's not us. That's not our culture. That's not our way. That's not our light. That's not us. But it made it be so because she has done that, infiltrated Yahweh in there. The Baal worship, like I said, we have their Baal Holy Bobby right now. Like I said, certain things. It was he and she purposely allowed him to do this. But one thing about the Most High said, you know, people think she's a witch, or maybe why she still had to be something powerful or mystical or something was truth in her religion because she disappeared. She was a witch. Okay, even so, because we do know in the Bible witches do exist. They do acknowledge that witches did exist. See, that's the whole point. And the true ones are the ones right now that decoded that. I mean, not decoded that Bible, wrote these different translations of the Bible, continue to do to reign, making it be a spell on people because people don't have the spirit to go in, the seek, or the knowledge and understand that every book that you're reading, or exactly this particular book, it is true. It is more truer than any other book because the simple fact is it brought you to the knowledge of it itself. That's how the spirit works and got you to understand what really went on, what's really going on. And then when you go get the world history and the other, it all makes sense. But the spirit had to teach you things. That was the new covenant because everything had been infiltrated. Every culture has been diluted. They have tried to mix with us. So much has happened. So the spirit, when we called upon and we start asking, answering, we start seeking, the spirit going to draw near to us. That's what it's all about. Us breaking up our mind and wanting to, or something sparking us. And that's what this awakening was all about. People start to get one of the real answers for their souls, because their souls been dying, been harmed and hurt, all these things. And people just, in some type of morality and wisdom, children, she knows her children knows her. Somewhere she puts inside her children, you need to seek me. Something ain't right. You feeling like this is something. You know, and just gonna say this, my downfall was I was loaning and looking for a love that did not exist in this time of generation that I'm in. But I am who I am, and I can't change. But that's what made me different. But it also came as much effects living in a generation that I live in. Loaning for something that do not exist in this generation. This is the last. This is the end game. This has went far and beyond. And I guess they never thought it was any of her seeds or daughters left. I guess they thought it was just the spirit was not going to still do what it do. I mean, she says I was the master craftsman in the beginning. Jezebel was nowhere there. Her culture, where she came, she was nowhere there. She was not the seed of that. So why did you expect for you to be able to stop something? But you know what? I feel like they took pity on her and just put her in the outer realm. Because the simple fact is, they know the sense of what she did have to go through, and certain things happened to her, triggered those things. But at the same time, it was no excuse. But the fact that what saved her, because the simple fact was, it was allowed. She did create something, Christianity or whatever you want to call it, these doctrines. She didn't completely allow the men to destroy everything. Do you hear what I'm saying? She didn't. She used her wisdom too in a little sense. She didn't allow them to go too far. You know, she already know where she was going. She didn't let them go too far, because that anger that you think that wicked man got, oh, like it says, there's nothing worse than a woman scorn. It's nothing worse than that. Arab was scared, had started to become scared of her, because it was getting real. But you start something, men, like that, you make a woman go against her will spiritually, all that stuff, and you want to subject it. What else did you think you were going to get? Now, it's just by the grace of the Most High, He has spared some of us women and have allowed us to change, have allowed us for our eyes to open up, to allow us to see. And some of us, He didn't even let us go too far. We were still who we were. Guarded our heart, guarded our spirit, was with us guiding so we wouldn't go too far from that path. By the grace of the Most High, it is just a remnant of women. That it is some. And I'm just being honest. That it is some. Because the men did start that. They started that transition of that becoming that. Even with Jezebel. But it's no excuses, because it comes a point in your time where you had it through her life. She had a tend to do some type of repenting, or say, you know what, enough is enough. Or maybe she could have. Who knows? But at the end of the day, we know that she vanished. She gone. And yes, I do believe she was the witch. The Bible talks about they were witches. People don't believe that exists. The problem is mankind went too darn far with that terminology and didn't really even understand what it was. Because if you not listen to a woman that tell you another, how can you know? You would never know that. This is a woman's war on that battle. We got two sides, and that's just what it is. Some got 3 and 4 and 5, and they call themselves split personalities or bipolar. Different things they terminate you in the world as. But other than that, honestly, it's only 2 really sides you can pick. And it's only 2 pathways a man can choose. And that's just the real reality and truth, okay? Don't let nobody, deceive you off of that. Other fake stuff, delusions, like I say, of Jezebel, the delusions, the Christianity she built. She built her son Jesus up, that image. She did all of that. They had children they sacrificed too, made them go along with that child sacrifice religion. And she hid it under the image of Jesus and Christianity. Why? Because she imitated the real truth of Mary and her son, and what the Israelite women were really of. What they are, that she could never be. But it was all in to destroy that original Aboriginal woman, the real true woman of Israel. It was all to destroy that. It wasn't because these other women like this Samson and all these great wise men we had, or our brothers and whatever. It wasn't because they were so darn worthy of them, or they just really loved them. It was all to destroy the power source of them, which was always considered the woman. Even in nowadays, you got some cultures, they still hold on. When other cultures still hold on to that, how in the world that the nation don't even hold on to that? The one true supposed to live in God don't even have a standard when it comes to a woman. But you see all other nations of men got a standard when it comes to a woman, whether it's wicked, bad, or something else, or deluded, or mythology. They got it in there. So it's no excuse why we should be dealing like this now. Nah, it was all to destroy her. That's why they sent their daughters, their wives, all them women in Solomon. Do you not know they had covenants with men in their nations? You know the men could be feeling some type of way too. I'm sure they did. He got what he deserved. I'm sure they did. Them are darkest women go. Those are darkest women going. They had covenants with their own men. They had set up rulership of what they supposed to be doing in instruction, and they come over to us. That's crazy. But they sent their daughters and they sit up there and did that. That's the most nastiest thing I ever heard. Went along with it. Like y'all a dog, telling you to go over there and be a hoe and go do that so we can take down. And then we'll promise y'all be them. No, they could never been us. It doesn't matter. They would never been considered us, whether they mixed with them or not. It never still we're gonna be the original woman's place being taken. This was allowed for a reason. And just having wisdom, I understand why mother and father allowed that. Because they do get to show you who are really here. At the end, it's like you get to see really who really accept Christ, who really accept the true way. This is a perfect plan to see who really rocking with Christ, because he's gonna have a wife. Every man gonna have a wife. Every woman gonna have a husband. It's gonna be kingdom. It's gonna be in a clean way, keeping the laws, keeping the commandments. It's gonna be done in holiness. It's not going to be homosexual, all this fake mythology, man worship, all these fake things, all this spirit of hate, division. It's not going to be none of that. You're going to really have to be sincere with this. Are you going to accept the covenant or not? That's just simple. This is a perfect plan. And then it also payback for those seeds that had their children that still live today too. To be perfect plan, and they get a last opportunity in this world. Guess what? A perfect example to just cut that off, which she already knew and foretold this. See, the women already knew that they was gonna get tackled down and all that by men. They were gonna use their physical force to come for the daughters. They knew that. They were given visions, revelation. They were part of God's source, the original. What do you think they knew? It's just something they just had to go through. But guess what? For us to be standing at the end and having a remnant, that shows even more why we were worthy to be that in the beginning. Because we went through all of this and still love the Most High. We still got our moral concept. We still want to hold up our God. We still want to do some principles. We still want to act according after everything that they allowed when they could have. They had the power to stop it. But why should we be angry with them? No, we shouldn't be angry with them. We should understand that it was all for a very greater purpose. So now the ones that was in the nation that was not right or didn't want to or hearts, it's going to all be wiped away. No more remembrance. Surely God, if he can put us through this and get us all bitter and broken, hurting, we contrite, we hurting, surely they can heal us in one day. And we won't forget all these things that our grandmothers went through. We want to forget all these things that we've been through. And that's the mindset that you have to have, sisters. Don't blame God. You just got to know. And that's why she said, if I hearken to Balaam, it's a turn. Turn this around for your good if I hearken to them. If I allow Jezebel and Arah to do all these things and mistranslate these books and done what they do, surely it's for a reason. But do you really think that God was not going to avenge that type of blood? That they were not going to avenge the daughters? Men are absolutely crazy if they thought that they could get away with all this violence, manipulation, homosexual, making women have abortions, women committing suicide, pushing. Do you actually think, and these women that's going along with them, how worse are you to kill your own sister? That's crazy. So it's something serious that's going to happen. So I just wanted to let y'all know with my tongue that look at it that way. I try to give y'all a brighter picture in your mind, okay? With this pictograph Hebrew, when I'm creating now, finally got the simple back meaning, understanding through the spirit. I'm creating something new for y'all. I'm making y'all think on levels that you ain't never think before. I'm going to go to the sync with you to get y'all to increase in learning. I'm not going to allow you to stay like that no more. We're going to get to where our divine selves as masculine and feminine need to be as one on the cord of the willing God. The will of God. Doing the will of God now. So we're going to increase in learning. We're going to get the understanding. We ain't going to be so quick to get angry. We're going to be slow to our wrath. We're going to figure this thing out together. And we're going to stand together, okay? So that's what I'm going to challenge y'all to do on my channel. This is my open kind of book. You know what I'm saying? In my life. It's me giving y'all me and me real instead of there for me. Like I said, it's a task. It's a struggle at times. Like I had my mama yesterday with my son. It's struggles at times. The enemy's always ready to take. Them spirits are already. And it's like in my mind, I got to pray all the time. I got to maneuver through this darkness. It's hard because you got spirits all the way around. That's just evil. They just want to do stuff, seeking for stuff. You know, speaking stuff every minute against you or speaking things that have gossip. And, you know, like I said, all them words mean stuff. You would be counting for your words. You're speaking things in existence. It would manifest, negative or bad. You could be hurting your neighbor, which is harm. This stuff is serious, but nobody want to believe the Jezebel spirit ever exists. Yes, it was. It was real. Yes, they do exist. And that was of the Canaanite culture, Phoenician. They were heavy in that. Y'all be talking about the Egyptian, but nobody goes inside the Phoenician and the Canaanites, which is kind of a branch of Egyptians. They have that type of mythology too. Because like I said, the all cousins in Africa. Ham? Come on. Most High already told us what these nations do, so it shouldn't be a surprise to you. But I'm here to correct those little things that we should get ourselves checked by. And so we won't be erring. So enough of my tongue. I'm at 20 minutes. I wasn't going to go deep in there. This is a video too. And I'm darn sure not trying to do... I mean, I am going to do a video 5, but it's a lot that I had put in for this one too. Not a lot, but at least I put enough in this video to do. So I already done spent 20 minutes with my tongue. So I'm sorry, guys. But let me go ahead and play the first one. And this is just some reference of... the Black History Edition, which I'm doing it on this one, the Black History Edition. I'm going to start off with, this is my name. And like I say, on the one true God, I already, did someone that broke the code and through the Leviticus way. For those who haven't thought about an ideal, if you know Hebrew or you're depth inside of it, and that's something to spark your mind and be like, hey, let me try that. Let me do it in the Leviticus on a numerical to see what it comes up with. So that was good. And this brother kind of summed it up too, in the same sense of what the meaning and what I've already told y'all. Names have meaning. The only thing he wants you to understand is his meaning, his substance, his understanding. You cannot comprehend him in this flesh. It's impossible. We already know that. So with anybody talking about a particular name, the only name we all can come to is Yeshua, because that is the Savior. Savior. And that's even a flip side of two, male and female. So when you understand these things, you have to understand it from a literal, a conceptual, a symbolic, okay? And a metaphor plays all a part inside the Proverbs and the wisdom, okay, of her. So you have to understand the creation and how it exists and different things that it do. So it's just basically, that's why I keep it simple. Keep it simple, Elohim, if you want to. Just don't get too much on that. But I'm just sparking the mind for those who want to do a little bit silent things and seeking a little bit more on that subject. It's okay. I still give you little things here and there of that. But we know what we know. And that's the reason why I say we can't use Jesus. We can't say that because that's Baal. I understand this is what she did. Jezebel. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I can't say that name no more. I will never say that name no more. Because that's what we're trying to lift up off, the delusion. Where everything tied to that. We have to let that go. We have to let that go, even including the name that came with that. We have to let that go. And if she is a witch, you're calling on her. And guess what? Why do it tell you in the book in the end? Like her spirit on was this? Yes. She had put herself and her culture inside ours. Ahab allowed it. One of the Israelites allowed it. And this is why you had the battle between Phoenician and Sumerian. Why you got that war, why you get to see that going on when you go down and look at the descendants of Sumerian was us, Hebrew origin. Then you go look at Phoenician, Canaanite, African. But the fact that we're African and Indian or all these different terms that have called us, how about you just say you Aboriginal? Or you Negro Aboriginal. If you dark, if you brown, just say you brown Aboriginal, or whatever you want to put. But understand our history and our source of our power is in our native history. You're not hearing it. It's in our native heritage. Our Hebrew neighbor heritage. They were over here. We became one. And that was a great tactic for the elders to survive. We are the children born in a war in America and over the world of colonization. We are the children born from that experience. Later generations. That's why the promises go to us. We have nothing because they want to keep on making us say Africa. They want to keep making us look over there when we are here. No. It's not working no more. It's that all that delusion finna come out. Okay? So, it was okay for the Israelite men to marry Ethiopians. Okay? Or Indian Aboriginals over here. Gad. Mother Leah was of a descendant of that too. And she took Joseph and Ephraim in too when Rachel didn't want to tend or do or act up, because we know about her studying some of the things we could tell in the scriptures. Leah was a mother to all the tribes, and she was the first wife. The Most High had it be like that because it was supposed to be like that. And just accept it. It ain't no war between Ephraim and Judah. I could be both because my mother Leah is from Ephraim. That's what I'm saying. I'm everything in one. Everything in one. Bloodline, spirit wise, heritage wise, melanin wise, whatever you want to call it. Of my source that created me. So I'm not going to sit up here and do that. And do that. And talk like that against any other tribes, any of my black Indians. I own that I'm a black Indian. I am not, ashamed. I'm not going to deny my history or Aboriginal here. I'm not going to do it. I'm not an African. And I'm not an Indian. I am Aboriginal. I am both. I am all the source of the whole world. We are the Aboriginal of the whole world. Okay? Wherever land we on. And I just ask y'all to stop feeding into that black, colored, African. That was part of their delusion as well. That was part of the things of Jezebel too. It was all of that. So now that we understand that, we got to get out of that spell of us. We got to get out of that trap of Yahweh, Baal, Jesus, worship, because that's all it ever was. Okay? Them exhorting themselves as the people, infiltrating in the culture, because one man chose to go out, and it brought a lot on every type of generation from that, even his seeds. From that painful story, Arab had a painful death for it. So it teaches you a good lesson about mixture of culture and bloodline and different things that came. And we dealing with them fits till this day of what that marriage was about and what happened and how they conquered and did things too. And that spirit just grew all over the world. And been here since then. So many people do it now. Many Jezebels around. You can't even see nothing pure, nothing righteous. Nobody talking. Ain't nobody talking like it's a few of us. The majority you see is Jezebel image. Fake, fake, harlotry, worship, get my money how I get my money. And that's why a lot of people died through all this stuff that's been going on, a lot of stuff that happened. Most I've been cutting them off, and it's gonna be some more cutting off in their sins, because it's not right. And if I have the opportunity and breath for me to put this up or share this and do some work with my time wisely, that may save a soul, may look at this and it gets sparked, or it's something that they've been seeking and it be like, oh my gosh, to turn away from their lifestyle. That's what's gonna bring me joy. I'm like, okay, I would want that. That's why I'm putting it up. To save a soul that's actually seeking, that wanna know and actually sincere and just was misguided or had parents like that or had people around them with that spirit and they just couldn't see. That's what I'm here for. So you can get some salvation. So you can get some nourishment and you'll make it. You make it on your journey past death. And that's what we all want to do. Okay? We all want to go. So I'm gonna put on this first is this is my name. And I'm just going to flow from here because I don't talk too much in my mouth. I'm not supposed to shut up here 20 minutes. But I'm right. I'm done. Straightforward with my few sister and brothers. They got a lot of good info and prophetic divine revelation. So we're going to go from there. I'm quiet, y'all. I'm quiet for now. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Hold on.
Now let's take a look at the next verse, verse 15. And Elohim. Now let's take a look at the next verse, verse 15. And Elohim said again to Moshe, thus you will say to the sons of Israel, Yahweh, Elohim of your fathers, Elohim of Avraham, Elohim of Yitzchak, and Elohim of Yaakov sent me to you. This is my name for a long time, and this is my memorial for generation and generation. Elohim again gives his name to Moshe, but this time it is Yahweh. The two names, Yahweh and Ehya, are related. Here's the verb haya, again, which we discussed earlier, and here's the Hebrew verb hawa, he, wa, he. Let's take a look at this verb hawa. It is virtually identical in meaning and use as the verb haya. The first person is ehwa, and that means I exist or I am. The second person, tihwa, you exist or you are. And the third person, yihweh, he exists or he is. Do you notice here that the third person of the verb hawa is spelled yod, he, vav, he? Remember, all he.
And like I just spoke to y'all and I said, Yahweh has a meaning too. Like I said, she infiltrated her name, Ahab's name in there too. So for them to be, I guess, like I said, they were being worshipped and they were requiring child sacrifice. They had their children under this, teaching them that type of way of life. And like I said, the rest is history. This has been going on since then. They took advantage of the Israelites after Moses and Marion and Arian and all them died, and they were wondering things they came upon. Like they said, it was in the land of Canaan. Made their way. They took advantage after Moses and Aaron and Miriam died of the children in that generation. And they took upon them and made them enforce their culture of Phoenician and different things on them. And like I said, the rest is history. We are here now. And this is where we stop at this moment, because this is where it happened. For all our minds, all our spirits, and all our souls as man and woman. This has to stop. It went too far. I'll tell you that. It went too darn far. And they expect every woman to do this, or every man to do that. The Spirit intervened, let us know what's the truth and what is right, and what it's going to be, and what it was always meant to be. She had no right to put her name in our stuff and be who and be us. Daughter Zion, supposed with these terms. Us. Canaanite woman became Israel. While the real original one is suffering, have nothing, and people continue trying to break their spirit of their mother in them. Day in, day out. They've conquered a lot of people. They broke a lot of women. Broke a lot of men in, but not this one. And I think the most I like to say, it was time. It came a time where this spell had to get off. Had to get off.
Hebrew names are words with meaning. Therefore, names like Jehovah, Yahweh, Yahweh, Jehovah, etc. mean.
She basically told y'all Satan was her God. The whole time it's been there. That was her God. There's some truth inside of that book. Like I said, the burning times, the histories was, yes. If the Most High said you are not to suffer or wish to live or things to happen, when it talks briefly of those things, The reason why, like I said, if he's speaking on it, that means it's already been before, or it do exist, and he knows because he's a God of everything. So he's letting us know, but he also correcting us, and then we go get more understanding when we go to the Mother Wisdom and she explains different things. We understand, then we get the understanding, and we grow to keep us away from these things. That's all the way around squares because it's true. It's true. It was always just a conceptual, metaphorical, symbolic way of tongue. You know what I'm saying? Parable. Wisdom. You have to have wisdom. You have to understand. This is not for the people that want to be simple-minded, want to be foolish, or want to just feel like they a God. They don't want to grow into being a God in mind, body, and soul. They want to just take the easy way out and be like, I'm just God because I'm a man, and I'm a God because I'm a woman. And don't want to do no fruits in the spirit. Don't want to grow inside. Don't want to be challenged. Don't want to get better. So how are you going to be a God? How are you going to know how to relate to the people if you don't want to go through anything, or the little stuff you go through you just break so easily? No, we got to have a backbone. We got to stand up. So we have to go through the process. We can't skip the process. But if you do, you see what's going to happen. Like Jezebel, Ahab, want to skip the process, want things easy, want to use others, want to sacrifice children to get to Satan, to God, and they get all this stuff. That's what they were getting, to be able to conquer and get their world and their money and wealth and stuff like that. And because they were literally making the children do this type of stuff, teaching this to these children. The culture just got infiltrated with this Phoenician and this Canaanite stuff. And now it's just it all astray, and you don't even know. People just go back and you thinking like, damn, all the ancient civilization, you don't know what the further to. Because it made it like that. She made it like that. They made it like that. One man and one woman made it like that for a lot of people. It's called child sacrifice, and it's still happening to this day. Y'all can't see it with your eyes because you're still thinking that it's, oh, I don't see mothers killing their daughters, or I don't see men killing their sons. I don't see my, no, oh, spiritually, we getting tore up. We getting cut off. It's terrible. It's a lot going on. You know what I'm saying, in the world. It's spiritual, baby. Spiritual is way worse than anything somebody can do to you physical. Even emotionally sometimes. Spiritual is spiritual. Witches worked it with spiritual. She was messing with spirit. She was serving Satan. She had this spirit was very deadly. Very deadly. And like I said, even it got to the point where Abraham he started to get scared. He started to get. Now Elijah wasn't scared. He just knew what was gonna happen to him. You don't want that though. You know what I'm saying? You want to still pray because you know that she just a mere woman. She was under the same type of structure at some point. But at the same time, it doesn't make sense to go try to destroy every guy. No, somebody got to stop you. But that's how it is. Most High already told us about the scornful woman. It's like hell. And she's in it and controls it too.
Because none of these words are Hebrew words. They mean nothing in the Hebrew language. So, in my opinion, the pronunciation of the name Yod-He Vav-He is Yihweh. I should point out why I use the W rather than a V for the letter Vav. In modern Hebrew, the sixth letter of the alphabet is the letter Vav, which has a V sound. However, it can also take on the O or the U vowel sounds. There is some controversy over this, and that there are those who believe that in ancient times, this letter was the letter Wa and had a W sound along with the O and the U. Personally, I believe that it was a Wa, a W sound. And there's evidence for this. One of those is that 4 of the letters in the Hebrew alphabet doubled as consonants and vowels. These are the Aleph, the He, the Wa, and the Yud. The Yod, for example, can be the consonant Y or the vowel I or E. Notice that the Y and the E are very similar in sound. In the same way, the Wa or W is similar to O and U. Another piece of evidence is that Arabic, which is almost identical to Hebrew in its alphabet, does not have a vav, it has a wa, and it's pronounced with a W. It's possible that the V sound may have come from a Germanic European influence. So rather than Yive, it would be Yihweh. However, I do not believe that the focus should be on how the name is pronounced, but instead on what that name means. Let's take a look at Exodus 20, verse 7 from the King James Version. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. We've had many people interpret this verse many, many different ways, but in my opinion, looking at this Hebraically, literally what this verse is saying, you shall not lift up the character of Yahweh falsely. What I believe this verse is saying that we are the representatives of Yahweh. We take his character, the Hebrew word for name, Shem, means character, and place it.
That's right. Why you think when he says that why do you think he says when they became a byword? How can a people become a byword, right? He's explaining conceptual understanding. My people Shem, my copper, my bronze people, they became this light. Mother talks about the spirit. My daughter's spirit came, this is what it does. But all in all, it's get the meaning. That's why I said I am who I am. I am who exists. Makes sense? So there you go. And because the brother's not going to give you that understanding that you're looking for. It's in you, baby. You got it. They got it too because they can be wise from reading them. They should they should be reading the wisdom books. They really should be getting inside Christ and wisdom. And when they understand those two, you understand everything. Not just one chapter of a Torah, or you will understand everything. So I suggest Franklin and T.D. Jakes, y'all go try to find Christ in some wisdom books and really study her before it's too late, because everything was not about a man. Okay? Knowledge is knowledge. We need it, but knowledge is nothing without wisdom and understanding. That old saying, this is a man world, but it's nothing without a woman, huh? I'm sure y'all love y'all little world sayings, old sayings. Probably created a lot of them with a lot of confusion.
Us. Now, as his representatives, if we go out and lie, steal, or cheat, we're now representing his character falsely. Another verse is Numbers 6:27. And they, the Kohanim, the priests, shall put my name upon the children of Israel. Now, at first glance here, this really doesn't make a lot of sense, because how do you put a name on a people? Are they supposed to write this on them? But we have to understand that the Hebrews wrote very concretely. They used concepts that you can see, hear, smell, taste, and touch. So what this is talking about is taking the character of Yahweh.
Right, and then he's also explaining how they have put a name on people, trying to make them ask them, what is my name? Trying to make them say the name when they don't know the name. It's sacred. They only know he exists. Now the people start thinking, oh, was Israelite paganism, believing in stuff unseen. We all believe in stuff unseen, right? We can't see our spirit in our body right now with our eyes, but it's existing. It's what making us speak right now. So that's just what it is. That's the simplicity you can see. But like I said, them Canaanite women was like dog, foolish, corner minded women. They didn't understand our culture, our way. They didn't need to get a hold of nothing. So but this is why they gonna speak like Yahweh, or this is their stuff they speak like. Which is, hey, if you want to do that, that's you. But I'm just saying, I got understanding. And now that I got understanding and I know, I try to do better when I know better. Just saying.
and giving it to the people. Interestingly, this verse comes right after the Arunic Blessing. And the Arunic Blessing describes the entire character of Yahweh. Then the Kohanim are supposed to take this character, which is the name, not just a name like 4 letters, but the character of Yahweh, and teach it to the people so that they now have the character of Yahweh within them. In summary, these 3 verses that we looked at, Exodus chapter 3, verses 13 to 15, we see the Ehya Asher Ehya. We looked at that from a Hebraic perspective on what that phrase means. But then we also recognize that Yahweh has 2 names. Ehya, which means I exist, I will exist, I am. And also Yahweh, which means he exists, he will exist, he is. And both of these names are related to each other. Both of these names are conveying the idea that Yahweh is the existing one. One thing that we must keep in mind, in the ancient Hebrew thought, only that which can be experienced exists. One of the major differences between Hebrew thought and Greek thought is that Hebrew thought only...
And that's true. I'm here to confirm it. Like I said, I have a spirit, and I know, had this mindset all my life, pictographic. Okay, so understand Mother Wisdom when she says proverbs. If you go decode what a proverb is, concrete, knowledge, experience, you will feel the ruach. Like, you have your small one, but when she come, you know. You know what I'm saying? It was burning for me. You'll know. It's an experiencing. It's not something, you're not being a pagan. You're explaining that this is something you can't really utter. She tells you that in all her 600 and something laws, which it was way more than that before her physical temple got built. It was destroyed. They had way more laws than that, like about over 700, probably 700 to 800. They had laws, but they weren't laws of man. It was really commandments. It was wisdom. It was a way of life that they should go by, because if they didn't, things they know. So that's why you need the wisdom part of this, so you can understand the pictographic Hebrew language. She will explain every part of that and what it is. Everything's go back to her proverbs, her parables. All men use wisdom. That's the only way they were able to do a lot of things that they did. It was not that foolish Jezebel wisdom that you got walking. That wasn't it. That's Canaanite wisdom. Remember, we all in the form, but it's a difference of way how we perceive it and how we know it to be, because we are of the living source. So just letting y'all know, Mother Wisdom in the scriptures and Proverbs and the Sirach, it would break down all of that within the knowledge that you got in Hebrew, or the little things that you're coming about. And I would ask that y'all go. When you understand her and you get in depth with that, you will understand the knowledge completely plain. You won't be so deluded in your mind and going off and still trying to figure out. You won't be satisfied. You'll be satisfied and content, and you'll be just nourishing yourself daily. You'll be on a steady path when you have wisdom. But that knowledge is going to run you off if you ain't got it, because it explains it to the T of pictographic Hebrew language and what it was really about, what it is. And so, yes, that's true. They always use conceptuals, things that you can feel, see, because you're alive. You are one with nature. You are one with creation. We are one. I don't know why we separated ourselves from, but that's not the way it go. So I absolutely agree, my brother. And a lot of people would not like to hear this, especially just because a person white or a person got a skin. You would not want to hear the truth. And it's sad, because it's really the truth. Okay? It's the truth. And a lot of people have come about it. You can't be biased when you're trying to get, if you're testing a theory on life to see what your belief is. Is your belief true? Or if your belief, your faith is true? Okay, then you need to test your faith. You need to test your belief with theory, evidence. We got the Proverbs there. So my faith in Yeshua is based off everything that I could feel, touch, see. Also about the historical background. Also, I am alive. I'm experiencing as well. And my belief. So I tested my belief. I was willing to be questioned. I was willing to question it. And so it was like weighing my evidence, going out, being your own kind of investigation with your own mind to see if you on court. And then it makes sense and everything it makes sense and you're like, okay, yeah, this is the truth. It's just the spell, the delusion, of the things that they taught us in these organizations and had the parents going through the system, going through these church, all this stuff of just distractions after years and years and centuries, and now people left with no spirit and dying like crazy, obese, all these sins and just piled up because nothing was ever being given the truth. Nothing of spiritual to get people to, it wasn't there. And so now that it's here, hopefully we can save some more and we'll save a lot more, be able to pull them out and revive them and get them renewed and get their mind back straight after, get into this deep understanding, but actually in a simplicity form,
Only concerns itself with that which you know, that which you can see, hear, smell, taste, or touch. Greek thought, on the other hand, goes beyond that, the abstract. What is out there that I have not experienced? Sciences are developed out of Greek thought. Hebrew thought cannot develop the sciences because of its way of thinking. Israel in Egypt had not experienced Yahweh, therefore to them he did not exist. So Moshe's question to Elohim is, they're going to ask me who you are. What am I going to tell them? What is your name? What is your character? And his response is, I am the one who exists because I am the one who exists.
All right. I'm sorry, guys. I was eating a little bit over there out the camera. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. The next one as well. Jerusalem is not the Jerusalem we think it is. 59 minutes.
Mocha and chocolate. Have a break. Have a Kit Kat.
It's probably low. Stop coming in and out the house. It's not too loud, but I hope y'all can hear pretty well. Go back outside or come in here, sit down. Stop coming back and forth. I'm sorry, y'all. Her volume is too low, and I can't even really hear it while I'm recording it. I'm just going to put her link down there under this description. And y'all, please go check it out. It gives you a lot more pictographic insight in your mind to break that beast, that Bell doctrine in your head, the mark of beast. It'll get you to really understand what's going on here, okay? It's a sister. It's really well. It's 59 minutes. But I'm going to go ahead and play, one that I know is, uh, um, I can hear well, and I know y'all can. Some more Ruth, Miss AKA not on me. The Fiery Serpent. Ariel.
Morning, brothers and sisters. Back for another video. Hopefully this will work. Computer's been giving me some trouble. That's normal. But I thought today we'd actually take a deeper look at the fiery serpent, which is known as the seraphim, because we all tend to have such a negative view of serpent, that word serpent, in the Bible, and yet the glory is referred to as a fiery serpent. So we're going to take a deeper look into where we find that fiery serpent unexpectedly. So let's start. Let's look at the fiery serpent, okay? So let's look in Isaiah 6:2 first. All right, and this is what it says. It says, in the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord here is daughter Zion 136. This is her sitting on her throne. And you see her being instructed by God Almighty to rise up. Now, I don't have Isaiah 52 pulled up, but it's easy enough to find it. So Isaiah 52, she says to her daughter Zion, because this is her throne right here, awake, awake, put on thy strength, O Zion, put on thy beautiful garments, O Jerusalem. This is the daughter. They want you to believe it's a city. And yes, though it's her daughter, it's also the 144,000 known as Mother God's portion or inheritance that she indwells. That's why Mother God was so angry about the dividing of the pleasant land. Man took her pleasant land, woman, that she inhabited with her spirit and divided it. It went into a harlot and went into the righteous, which over time she simply got shoved out. The righteous spirit got shoved out, meaning Mother God got shoved out of her inheritance, all right? In allegory, all right, when we're looking at allegory. They'll tell you not to interpret scriptures in allegory, interpret it literal. No, it is allegory where you're going to find your deeper truth. So she says, O Jerusalem, the holy city, well, the Holy One, all right? For henceforth there shall no more come into thee the uncircumcised, men who are not circumcised, men whose covenant is with the harlot, and we're told about that covenant and what's going to happen to that covenant, that foreskin. Shameful spewing will come upon their foreskin when the cup turns to my right hand. Well, the right hand has been identified as the daughter Zion, who man rejected a covenant with. The first Adam did not want a covenant with the righteous spirit. He wanted one with the harlot so he could rule himself, so he could write his own laws. So that's what the word here, it says, and no more come on into the uncircumcised and the unclean. It's also referring to the harlot daughters who bows down to this man-made religious theology like a harlot and teaches it. So shake thyself from the dust, arise and sit down, O Jerusalem. Loose thyself from the bands of thy neck. The bands that's on our neck are man-made laws. That's what's on our neck. Because you get the understanding when we look at Psalm 2, and we're going to get to this, where they say, let us cut the bands asunder that they have put upon our neck. Okay, let's look at it right quick. We've looked at it in another video, but I'd like to say things that we can pull it together. Psalm 2. Verse 3, let us break their bands asunder and cast away their cords from us. Now, who's saying this in Psalm 2? This is the kings of the earth who decided they were going to decree their own laws and rule themselves. All right? And that's why they built up the stronghold, a harlot spirit named his daughter Babylon, that would allow him to do such. Daughter Zion was the righteous spirit given in covenant with the laws of Mother God, and the laws does come from the mother. The Bible attests to this over and over again. But it says the kings of the earth set themselves and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord, against her anointed one, against her holy one. That was the daughter Zion. That was Israel, the heifer, identified as the heifer, burned to ashes, that sanctified the temple, the tabernacle. Let us break their bands asunder and cast away their cords from us. They're talking about the law. They were saying they did not want Mother God's laws. And they were saying, we do not want daughter Zion's law. And as such, they were saying, we do not want Almighty God's laws, the one who gives life to us. It was through the laws that we received life. All right? And we cast them off. We didn't want them. And they made a covenant with the harlot. So that's what it means to take the bonds off. The bonds here that she's been ensnared by is man-made law and lies, which bleeds over from the Torah, which has actually become the principle that the world is founded upon. You look up the word principle, and you get a better understanding. And it also came into the shaping of our religious theology, which was all shaped by the men of Baal, when you get your deeper understandings, okay? So when she says, arise, take the bands off their neck, she's saying, take the bands of the law, man-made law. He doesn't rule you. He never did. He could never give you your rights. Though he tries to say that that's what God says. God says you're under me and you have to listen to me and my laws. That's basically what Baal taught, what man taught. And so she's saying, take it off. O captive daughter of Zion, for thus saith the Lord, ye have sold yourselves for naught, and ye have been redeemed without money. So the way that we're redeemed, according to the deeper study that I've done, when we were purchased by the law, by the truth. That's what purchased us. The truth, okay, I said law. The truth of the law is what purchases us. And those were the original 10 Commandments that our world was supposed to be founded upon. But the religious doctrine that fed out to the four corners came from fallen Adam and the harlot spirit. And that religious law put a band on our neck, the righteous daughter's neck, and said, you're under him, you'll do what he tells you. And that's your summary. I know I could do much better. I apologize for those who have been following me. But she says, sit down, all right? Shake thyself from the dust, arise and sit down. So she's saying, take your throne. That's what this means, all right? When we understand our words and all the connections, we understand she's telling daughter Zion to take her throne. That's what she's saying. This is daughter Zion's throne in Isaiah 6:2. That's her number, Lord. In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord. That's 136.
And she's absolutely right. But this is what I want you to understand, Miss Ruth. It's still man knowledge, okay? So let's go off the blueprint. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that they tried to decode the commandments of wisdom, because you see why I curl loans with the Torah. Some things you go back and be like, oh, Moses said thou shalt not go inside a woman. Then you see what Mother Wisdom explains about the difference of woman, the pathway, and different things. You see how I understand? So I'm going to say that maybe they was trying to understand at that time in their ages where everything wasn't revealed so much like it is now as they were going through the war. So this will give the last opportunity for them if they did it or they didn't understand it clearly. So that's the good part of it. You know what I'm saying? That's the two sides of what didn't happen with the Torah. Okay? And so, yes, they did this by violence. They just completely went off the Holy Spirit of writing those things and saying, thou should I, which is still truth in that, because Mother Wisdom explains it. But what they didn't do is they threw the mother authority down, like you said. But she's explaining in her form how she is. But I'm going to give a little more clarity. So they threw the principle, the understanding of it all down. And just went off of that, and that's why the world is in confusion and constructed American law off of it. But still, it contradicts the Torah too, things, because they didn't have the spirit with them. The spirit is not decoding it. So once you get the teachings of the wisdom and the 630 commandments, as I have found in some of the books, all the wisdom books that I'm putting together and doing my diary of Aboriginal woman in, you'll probably see the picture clearer of the Torah and what is true. And then once, Christ come in these things, you'll get some more understanding. But yeah, keep the Torah. I'm not going to tell anybody not to try to understand it. But what I'm saying is we can't even keep one Sabbath, just a 7-weekly Sabbath altogether as a whole in the world. We can't even get on that one point off the 10 Commandments. So how dare we go trying to force everybody or feel like, oh, we're going to be able to keep all these things to the T of the Torah of Moses. I call it the law of Moses that we got in this translated Bible. But the true Torah, okay, you have to see through that. You have to see through that law of Moses. What is it? Okay? And that's just giving clarity right now. Why she continues. But I just wanted to stop and let y'all know that, to not be discouraged as you hear the word, to clarify as we go. So you want to get too far off and thinking that I'm saying, oh, no, she's I'm going to give you understanding over here about it.
Such daughter Zion.
But she's telling the truth.
These are all feminine allegories to the glory, all right, which is also referred to as a fiery serpent, all right? Everybody has this negative spin on a serpent. A serpent is an allegory to a very cunning person. And we all know that when you're cunning, you can use it for good or you can use it for wickedness, all right? And so you're looking at a twofold idea here. You can't just cut it off and say, oh, it just means this one thing wicked. No, because when you go back into Numbers, when the serpents were coming in and poison, this is an allegory to the harlot daughters from the surrounding Adamic nations that Balaam had told Balak to go get your harlots, well, more or less your harlots, and send them in and seduce them in, and will take the righteous daughters on it that way. So you see, we're getting the establishing of the harlot spirit exalted in man's heart, which is why he's not circumcised, because circumcision is a representation that he will uphold that covenant with the daughter Zion and not exalt a harlot spirit in his heart wherein he gets to write and make his own laws. They come to believe in the physical might as if that's the power of God. The power of God is from the spirit. And from the spirit you get all power over physical and spiritual. But they began to place faith in their physical might as that being God. And it is not. The Bible attests to that over and over. So here, again, in the desert, when the women were coming in, which is the allegory to fighting them and feeding them poison doctrine. That's the wormwood. That's the law that slowly began to feed in and poison us and kill us, okay, bring on our death. So these women were feeding them doctrine that just tickled their little ears, these men's ears, and it was really cobra's venom. And over time, men took control, and it shifts from a feminine to a masculine, because though it began with these daughters coming in and feeding them this religious law, this new religious law, which tasted like honey on their tongue, but was really wormwood. It was really cobra's venom. And you get your allegory, it tells you that your wormwood is your law. It is your cobra's venom that's poisoning you. I can't find the allegory right now. But it states that they come in, they seduced the men, they were telling them and teaching them another way in the tents, hidden. And so they became poisoned, all right? And they began to die with this poison. So there probably was there was probably also the truth of serpents actually coming in, because they tend to play out in many ways. And so then Moses was instructed to make a serpent and raise it upon the pole. And any who looked to that would live. That's representing the glory. This fiery serpent, known as the seraphim, also known as the daughter Zion. That's how you live, through her law, which is given to her by Mother God. All right? And anybody who don't want to say mother gives life to all things, and you're saying God's a liar in this creation, and you'll take man's word over God's. God says, I told you what my truth is in the beginning. And so seraphim is not in this negative light that we have a serpent in. Because when you look seraphim up, let's do it. Okay, on your interlinear, it's Hebrew 83:14. And this is what it says for the seraphim. It says, a fiery serpent. The burning effects of poison? Okay. And yet here we have the Lord sitting on her throne. This is daughter Zion, the same one you see being instructed to take her place back, because it was always her. The first dominion was always promised to the daughter Zion. She's told that in Micah, in the book of Micah. It says, in the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord seated on a throne. Daughter Zion, high and exalted. And the train, that's the bride, of her robe filled the temple. The robe, the outer garment, represents the glory, the woman, the last thing created, man's glory. That's what she represents. Above her stood seraphim, each having 6 wings. With 2 wings they covered their faces, with 2 they covered their feet, and with 2 they were flying. And they were calling out to one another, holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. All the earth is full of her glory. All right.
Now you see why Jacob had 4 wives, what was happening to the men, why they were entertaining polygamy, because of the women that came in was of that. A man can only hold up polygamy as far as a woman holding it up. That's just the truth. If you take a woman that has 4 or 5 different husbands and have kids with them, all them kids are still going to be raised in our household, right? But if you take a man and you make him sleep with multiple women and do all those things, the power still going to lies in the women, right? Because they chose to do that. But the difference is, on the other part, is that the Most High can take one woman like he did Leah and make 9 nations out of it if he wanted to. She had 7 of her own. He didn't need to go work for Rachel. That was the problem that came. Then she gave her handmaid because she was of that. Her spirit that was working with Rachel was not good. Leah strike back by simply using wisdom of, oh, well, I can get one too. I've already born them 7, but I can get someone too to born them 2 more. I mean, if you want to continue to play that game. But it's still going to go to her. She's the first. It still was her right. And this is where the confusion came in with the women and men in this polygamy way. He didn't need a whole 12 tribes. That wasn't the concept. Meaning, they can pull up stones and make them Abraham's seed, as he said. What was the message given? A lot of our forefathers, great wise men that did have wisdom, did have the truth, did have a woman in covenant, rebelled against. And at that time, even Leah was under some of that stuff. Jacob would rebel, and things would happen because, he didn't quite love her until he grew with being with her for after a while. I mean, I guess the Most High started working out. She kept praying and different things, working on the spirit to accept her. But she stayed and fought. But she was not in control of other women's decisions or Jacob's decisions. Any of these women that wanted to just agree to this. And that's the war between the righteous and the wicked one, because you got one that want to continue to bow down and be that to make themselves, because they know that's what men like. You have one that fight against it and stand on the right principles. And it's just the man in the middle that can't seem to choose the right path for the Most High. So he's given the opportunity for mankind, the last of the seed, to get this right, to understand this, and not do what your forefathers did with the polygamy, the lust, and the things in the sin. I don't care how many strong men has failed. Did Mother Wisdom say many strong men have failed by Jezebel's spirit? many, even the wisest, as Solomon was, fell. So that should tell us a great deal about this spirit and why men should understand this before it's too late and really understand what's going on.
Now, let's connect this to an incident. Okay, maybe I don't want to go there just yet. Okay, so hold on. We'll get moving here. We're going to look at Uriel again. Because if we go and we understand Uriel, fire, all right, they'll say light of God, fire God, flame of God, all right. Uri, when you look the word Uri up, it means fiery, all right, and El is just God. So Uriel is the fire of God, would be the name translation of that. So if you go to Jewish Virtual Library, I just wanted to mention this in passing. I'll post this link. It's the Jewish Virtual Library where you'll find some information on Uriel, who is said to be one of the 7 archangels. I think this is what Ariel, all right, which is another name for the daughter Zion, Jerusalem, Israel. Ariel was her name. And when she got cast down, she became known as Uriel, I think, or it's vice versa. All right, I maybe not am not saying it the way I want to. But in Isaiah 29:1-2, Ariel is spoken of, okay? So let's just read it so we understand where my thinking is going on this, for anybody who's still with me. Okay, so in Isaiah 29, it says this, all right? And we're looking at verses 1 and 2. It says, woe to Ariel, the city where David dwelt. Add ye year to year, let them kill sacrifices. Yet I
But
will
they only
distress
stay on. Michael
Ariel,
was the only
and there shall
archangel.
be heaviness and
There was
sorrow,
no
and it shall
female
be unto
archangel.
me as an Ariel. Ariel, here, that word at the very end means an altar hearth. So you get the idea of the heifer, which is representing the nation of Israel, being burned upon that altar. She was sacrificed to actually cleanse the temple, which is the body male. All right? That's the representation of the Holy Spirit as this heifer burned to ashes in Hebrews chapter 9. All right? For anybody who understands allegory, you'll understand that the Holy Spirit was represented as a heifer burned to ashes that cleansed the temple. That's the Spirit cleansing the body. That made Christ an acceptable offering. All right? That's what you're looking at in allegory. So she's also mentioned in the Abrahamic Sarah covenant in Genesis 15:9. She is your heifer there. That they want to say, no, that's, don't listen to them. Go in and do your own study. But this is what it says in the Jewish virtual library about Uriel. It says, the appearance of Uriel in the altar fire caused all those who could see the flames to suffer a change of heart and repent. Right? Now, if you want to go in and you read this is quite interesting. It says a lot of things about this supposed angel. But understand, God is named a sevenfold spirit. But I don't think she's a seven. I think she has a sevenfold nature, but she's one at the same time. So she goes by many names. All right? Yet for Israel's sins, it says Uriel's primary strength was taken from, it says him, it's a her. And instead of the fire containing divine inspiration, a strange fire descended on the altar. Now they say it took the form of a demonic dog, whatever. I just like this phrase here, and we're going to focus on it because there is evidence in the scriptures to support this. The appearance of Uriel in the altar fire caused all those who could see the flames to suffer a change of heart and repent. So Ariel's spirit was changed in nature, is what it looks like, all right? But at the same time, you see this allegory of the fiery serpent, right, going on. We do. And where else do we find that? Well, we're going to go to Acts 28. And what does it say about Paul? This always stuck with me. I was like, I couldn't quite understand why this incident was written in here, because there was no sense in reasoning to it. You could, from this theology that I was raised on, reading this, it was just a complete, utter mystery to me. And I forgot my book. It was a complete mystery to me. But let's read it. It says, and when they were escaped, this is Acts 28, then they knew that the island was called Melita, or Malta. And the barbarous people showed us no little kindness, for they kindled a fire and received us, every one, because of the present rain and because of the cold. Now watch verse 3. And when Paul had gathered a bundle of sticks, remember the serpent on the pole would give you life, right? This is not negative. This is not a bad thing that happened here. But they've got it so twisted in our minds through their constant brainwashing, all right, of a viper being bad, that we even take this incident once, and just wrap it up as being negative. And when Paul had gathered a bundle of sticks,
But Christ
and laid
did
them
say,
on
be
the
wise
fire,
as a serpent and harmless as
scepter,
doves.
there came a viper out of the heat and fastened on his hand. Now, this is never explained anywhere. What was going on? Nowhere. This is where our reasoning in the spirit has to take hold. It has to. And when the barbarians saw the venomous beast hang on his hand, they said among themselves, no doubt this man is a murderer, whom that though he had escaped the sea, yet vengeance suffereth not to live. And he shook off the beast into the fire and felt no harm. And so this is where they begin to look at him and go, wow, he's special, right? Because they apparently saw this viper come out of the fire, this fiery serpent come out of the fire, and we have the seraphim described as a fiery serpent. Now, what else happened to Paul that was never really fully explained? All right? What happened? 2 Corinthians chapter 12. This is where we're going to actually link that incident to and why it took place. He was took to the third heaven, and he was shown a mystery that he was not allowed to utter. Right? We've discovered what that mystery is, all right, here in the end of days. It is not expedient for me, doubtless to glory, I will come to vision and revelations. Am I in the right chapter? Yes. Of the Lord. That's 2962. That I have identified as daughter Zion's number in the New Testament. You can argue me, that's fine. You don't want to go study, don't study, but don't blame me for it. I knew a man in Christ above 14 years ago, whether in the body I cannot tell, or whether out of the body I cannot tell, God knoweth. Such an one caught up to the third heaven. And I knew such a man, whether in the body or out of the body I cannot tell, God knoweth. And that he was caught up into paradise and heard, what does he say? Unspeakable words, which it is not lawful for a man to utter. So, he was revealed a mystery at this point that he was told not to utter. He was more or less told to seal it up and not utter it. Now, who else was told that? Right? Who else? I got it up. I had it up, of course. Now it's not there. So Daniel. Daniel chapter 12. Was he not told the same thing? We'll read it just for a quick reference, if I can find it. Daniel 12, verse 4. But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. So he was told to seal it up. This, something that was not to be uttered. Just like Paul here was shown something in the third heaven, he was bitten by a viper that come out of the fire. And what else do we have akin to fire? Well, if you go to, I got it pulled up. Acts 2. Yeah, I do. I got it right in front of me. Acts 2, verse 3. They saw what seemed to be tongues of fire that separated and come to rest on each of them. So the Holy Spirit here is identified as a holy fire. Suddenly a sound like a mighty rushing wind came from heaven and filled the whole house where they were sitting. Acts 2, verse 2. Now verse 3. They saw tongues like flames of fire that separated and came to rest on each of them. And they were all filled with the Holy Spirit and began to speak in other tongues as the Spirit enabled them. So again, you're seeing your allegory to the fiery serpent element, which is what Moses was instructed to raise on a pole, was a serpent wrapped around a scepter. In this case, with Paul in Acts 28, they had gathered kindling sticks and they had set them on fire. So it's an allegory to your fiery serpent, your brazen serpent in Isaiah 6:2 as the glory of God, which is identified as the daughter of Zion. And in 2 Corinthians, he speaks of being took to the third heaven and shown things that he was not permitted to utter. Now, who else was told to seal up a book and not utter what he heard the seven, thunders utter? John. John, too, was took to the heavens, to the third heavens, and shown a vision and told to seal up a book and not to utter the words. Now, that mystery, we are told when we study the Word, gets revealed by the 3.5-year mark. And that mystery is that the daughter Zion is your spirit upon this earth, represented by a core group of women who bear this burden.
And I've been in the wilderness in the bee about May on the Gregorian calendar. I'm going to get a counter from a sister. She sent to me an email. Shout out to you. Thank you, girl. You're amazing. You're on my little only friend right now. For as I actually communicate with, and you have my number, and I thank you for keeping things sealed and private for me and stuff like that. But May, I think May be like 3 years. So I don't know. I'm gonna get the counter for myself and see where I'm at in that or whatever from what I know. But my process of waking up was around my 24th birthday, the last ending of September 2017. My water baptism was on October the 9th, 2017. And like I say, so I'm in these kind of few months, I guess. Would it be 3.5 years? I don't know. But I come on the scene August of 2020. So I'm just giving y'all a little information if that helps with helping me and help the body, and we all helping each other to figure this thing out. Because I truly don't know everything. I'm learning just like y'all. But I know a lot from the spirit.
It's a real burden to them. And you find out why this 144,000 is cut out without hands as the Mount Zion that will crush the feet, the toes of that man-made image of a false image. It's male, it's a king. That's not your ruler, it's not your God. And it speaks of them in Zephaniah chapter 3, and basically why these daughters are appointed. 18. It's verse 18. I will gather them that are sorrowful for the solemn assembly, who are of thee, to whom the reproach of it was a burden. So you carry this man-made religion on you like a yoke, like a burden. It's a reproach to you.
And as I explained a little bit in some of my videos of a little bit of short of my testimonies, or like I said, in this generation and time that I in, I can't even utter how the men have become. Like I told y'all, I learned from something that I knew exists, but I was deceived by this generation that it's not in me. Not saying there's no sons of men left, but they're rare, and it don't come from where I come from, where I'm at in the bottom, what we call Louisiana, which I call it hell. I love our history. I love our legacy. It's a lot here. But until you understand the scribes and the pain and the things of the negative history we have and the spirits that's on this land and a lot of bloodshed from Judah on this land coming to New Orleans, Louisiana, you'll understand why it's like this and why people so lost. The people are here. There's been people still here from the descendants of those very first ones that came on Louisiana that are still here, descendants from those of those of those. Never even left out of Louisiana. Just continue family, family, family staying in Louisiana. So it's like one of those things for me that to be at this state, at this age, and in the state, in the land that I've been bound into since birth, it's a miracle itself. It's grace. Because the men that I come across and in my generation, even if it's older, that it's terrible. I didn't find no one to love me back. It was always still destroying my character, hurt my spirit words, things, all because I wanted them to be better. I was standing on something inside of my moral concept that I think they quite didn't understand and didn't, but I gave them chances. I was not wanted. They went after these women that would feed whatever they wanted, did whatever they wanted. Not saying I have not walked in the ways of wickedness because I lost my wisdom. I didn't know it was going off of love and what I would want someone to treat me as. But I understand it's important and why I needed it now. And a lot of things happened to me of deceptions and hurt and pain, and it started in my family with males. It's like that. It's like every round male, 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 and then they come and look at me and thinking that I'm too strong as a woman, or I'm masculine, or I'm this and I'm that. I'm rebellion. I'm can't stay in my place as a woman, and I'm looking like y'all took my place. You effeminate men, you wicked men, you women that just don't have the standard in yourself. Y'all took my place. So me, I'm like awkward to them. I'm weird to them. I'm not nothing to be accepted. I'm thinking I'm too perfect. I'm thinking I'm too right. I can't win for losing. Never could with that. And it has been a burden on my life. I've got spiritual effects I'm dealing with now that I just think I'm gonna take to my death. And the worst pain is dying by the tongue, and I'm a witness to that. So a lot of my spirit has backed off from me, but the mother, I'm slowly calling for her to come and just renew me because some things I'm still dealing with. And after that, it was like war after war, battle after battle with men, with males, physical, spiritually. It's always been there for me, males. It's like I felt like all my life I had it hard, like I couldn't even be a woman, like I couldn't even be me, couldn't even be a woman. That's the burden. It's like I was in a man's shoes as a woman. Literally. In a man's shoes as a woman. And I kept on being chastised, and I'm like, I know I'm not right, none of wrong. And the whole time, by me keeping my concept and more, by me not believing with my family telling me I'm bipolar, or me telling I'm crazy, or people sitting me down, by me not believing it brought me to where I'm at now. And something inside of me kept telling me, don't believe it. It ain't nothing wrong with you. But they'll call it pride as if I'm trying to put myself higher than them. And I'm like, no, I'm just not letting you tear my self-esteem down. It's like every time I try to have any strengths, I always be tore down. I'm trying to be in a man's shoes, and I'm like, y'all took my shoes, first of all, and put me in this man's shoes of strength, having to go through these things like I'm not a woman. But continue to persecute me with your tongue. Continue to try to hit on me or physically causing me to leave or causing me to be like, yeah, I can't be with this no more. And then you're mad. Then you want to go around, and destroy my character. Like, that's how it's been all my life. And it started, like, as I can remember, like, late, like, early, like, in my life. And I can say that I lost my small speck and, you sure, because I loved Christ when I was little. I understood the word at a very young age and didn't even know how to quite read the book. But I loved, I always had a love for the Jesus character. I always had a love to want to know. I always had to understand it, and I was a child in it. So I'm like, man, I'm looking back like, yeah, I definitely knew. I just had to grow a little bit more. and life experiences. And after a while, I kind of lost my day rebelling against my parents and different things, fighting against that spirit in the household, my mother. And so it just became a battle with us. Me and her, it was just a battle. And it's not like it was a battle or me. It's about her trying to take something away from me that I had from birth, like I could take it away from myself. And then that's the understanding. I'm like, I can't even stop being this if I wanted to. You know what I'm saying? I can't stop helping people. I can't stop loving. I can't stop wanting the sons of men to see better. I should have been and gave up on me. As much abominations have been committed on me, against me, and of tongue and air, I should have been to gave up. But I'm still here, and I'm like, I'm not giving up, because I know it's some out there that understand. I know it's some that have been longing for their mother's spirit, and they just didn't have it. They just wasn't sure. They were born from women like this. They were forced to marry women like this, you know, and it destroyed the sons of men. It destroyed her sons as well, not just her daughters. So I sympathize it from a brother to a sister with you going through this, and I hope you can do the same. And so that's my testimony, and this is my life. And it's like, even if I come as I am now, I'm not going to be accepted. I'm going to be classified like I'm faking. Like this can't be. But they say they believe in the Most High. They believe in the power. I believed in it, and it got me this far. And I did not see him. Never seen Christ. I never seen these people. I never seen them with my own two eyes. As far as I know, if I didn't pass, it's all gone. I don't remember. I'm slowly coming. So it's like, just because I choose to believe, that's my God-given right of free will to choose to believe. And so that's how I always felt. I was always in a man's shoes. I always will, and I was left with a child bum and all that. Had to figure out how to do all these things. I wasn't taught how to do that. It was just a spirit. I was able to manage and do these things on my own and figure out. And so it had become a burden. And to this day, I believe my death, honestly, y'all, would be because of heartbreak. You know, if it's that, it would be what already didn't happen and it existed now and around me that started this whole thing. It would be that. And so, whichever way the Most High wanted to go, I am going to follow and be obedient to it. And it's just one of these things that it's hard to get to understand. So it kind of gives me joy that people are understanding wisdom now. They understand it and they're opening their eyes to see. They're understanding. I don't even have to talk and explain myself. No, people are doing it for me. People are out and about and they're seeking now and they doing them. You know, it's like a joy. It was a joy for me and it still is. But it's so much long suffering and hurt too there. So that's why I have it seriously, because it is. It's definitely a laboring process right now on me. And I just can't be anymore. I have all types of emotions, like the last vision he gave me a couple years ago, with me being taken up in his hand and stuff, all the figurative symbolic things he was giving me, and it was like I was feeling every emotion it was. I couldn't even, like, everything. Happy, sad, down. It's amazing. And so I'm thankful in a lot of ways. And I do have a child of my own now. I do have a child of me. He blessed me with, and it's happened to be a daughter. So I can't help but feel joy, but also feel pain and feel hurt. And so, I'm just giving y'all me for that second. Sorry.
And she says, behold, at that time I will gather and undo all that afflict thee, and I will save her that halted, and gather her that was driven out, and I will get thee praise and fame. See, Satan, when he pointed at his wife, it was Adam pointing at the righteous spirit, blaming her. You get the understanding that he defamed her, that he debased her. And fame in every land where they have been put to shame. And at that time will I bring you again, even in the time that I gather you, for I will make you a name and a praise. The name is Israel. That's who these daughters are representing. They are the remnant of Israel. among all the people of the earth, when I turn back your captivity before your eyes, saith the Lord. So you are actually appointed, you are called to the throne, but you are chosen if you are bearing this as if it is a burden, a reproach, this man-made religious law, this man-made.
And it's so crazy because it's like, I'll just keep it up because my daughter's asleep on me. It's so crazy because I'm looking in the mirror right now and I'm like, you know what? All that pain, all that suffering, you tell me y'all really, it's really gonna pay off. I mean, I just believe. I just had faith, but I didn't know. I mean, it tells us in the word, but experiencing it now, and it's like, I thought nobody could understand me. I thought nobody ran, and I'm like, surely, I know it's in this world. But it's like me stuck in this, where I was bound at, it's like I couldn't see it. But now I do. Now I do. I went out for years, lived in Texas, I've lived in Alabama, lived in Mississippi, you know, and I got out because I had to, and different things the Most High, you know, moved me for a while, and it's like I got more understanding and living and different things that I had to do, and it even made me stronger in my faith on them. But it's like that I knew it would pay off. A lot of women, a lot of friends, old acquaintances, even family members try to discourage me to go do things or continue in some things I had to pull back from, not be around, deny. And then like people wonder like why she not married, she go talk like I had any choice for any man decision, but that was their choice to do that, not mine. I would have stayed, I would have been there. But I'm not gonna bow down. I was never gonna bow down to no man way of life of treating me or okay with treating me like crap or not having any type of spirit about themselves. I'm not of the world, so that type of stuff was like I couldn't deal with, you know what I'm saying? And it's like um it's like it's all coming clearer. It comes so clear, and the whole time I thought something was wrong with me, or people thought something wrong with me. All my silent cries would be coming to understanding. Then people will see the big picture now. And I can't be but grateful for that. But it's like, I mourn for them as well because it's like, surely when I was like, oh, it's no forgiveness for that type of stuff. Like, blaspheming the Holy Spirit. Like, I've been called evil names by, you know, ex-lovers, ex-people I thought I loved, thought they was my friend. But the whole time it was all about just taking, taking, taking. Don't care about my soul, my nothing, and then want me to surrender to weakness. I couldn't do it. So I chose to be alone. So a lot of times me and love, I chose to be alone because I wouldn't. And then my family be like, oh, you ain't got no man or you ain't go. All right. It's so easy with my beauty and my mind. I could probably go snatch up when I got some money and do this. I'm sure it's a lot of crossing paths, like, but I just, why would I get in a covenant with you or married to you and you're all about the world? You're all about money. You're all about this and that. Like, that's what only makes a woman happy. Like, I can go do that. I got a little freedom and I can go pursue the highest careers I want to. I can go sell my own dinner. So, if that's the case and be in my own house to do that, why do I got to, go through you? Even if it was on that level. Why do I have to go to you if I wanted to get something? So it's kind of like I thought about like, no, I wanted a person to accept me for who I am. I wanted them to understand and I wanted them to be more better for the Most High God. I wanted them to have a spirit. I wanted them to turn away from the wickedness, but it was not clear. It was all about lust and flesh and want to stay in type of stuff, and I just couldn't do it. And so hopefully this will give clarity to those in the past and those who crossed my path in my life and those who have defiled me and my character and my body and my mind and my soul and did the things that they did very evil and spoke against me falsely and all the things they've done. Yes, I've been through that. Been in psycho institutions because my mom, I've been to detention centers sending me away. I've dealt with this spirit of Jezebel. I've always dealt with this spirit too. Like my, father, I don't think he'd give a darn, never did. He's type of those men anyway. Like I say, men just went off thinking that it was just money, 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 money. But I happened to stay on my moral ground and just depended on the Most High to take care. And I got jobs and I went to work. I worked my butt off sometimes, two jobs at a time. Did what I had to do. You know what I'm saying? And then plus, we're having people that, families that don't give from the heart, that just always like, oh, you got to give me something, or they talk about you if you want to act. So, I try my best to depend on my God and get it through, and he did. And then, I finally realized at the end what it was, you know, and what happened and where I went wrong at is, like I said, um, accepting a help that I thought was presented as my mother really wanted to do something, but um, accepting the help from devil's hand. Like I said, this is a war. It's a spiritual war. But I'm not mad no more. I'm more like grieving for the world, but I'm excited because this is a new chapter in my life. This is something I always wanted for healing, a peaceful world, a peaceful thing. Like now, it's like, I'm finally gonna be shown if I'm finally gonna get mine, and it's like whether it be death or I'm living to see, it's like I'm finally gonna get some type of rest because I've got rest inside my mind being renewed. So I'm already thankful for that. So it's like that freedom that's been came through the spirit out the years is just really exciting. For I don't have what I had then, but I'm in a better place spiritually and mentally than I ever been before. And I think I need to go to the prophets. And I'm glad this, with the Most High, he allows Satan, he allows him to do these things, or her, Lucifer, whatever. They transfer their stuffs and lights all the time. They're just not really what they are. They ain't really got that light, just all over somebody else light and everything else. So I'm like, okay, I'm finally getting this moment, and I'm glad. I do not regret it a day in my life, and I'm glad I can help somebody else before I go, because I went out helping to the end, and being who I am, and that's why the one I married now is still here. Being who I am, what I did is who I am. That's what I'll always be. And if it takes me to my death for poverty and all this, and that just was my past where to go, I can accept it because I've been that way all my life. So it's been self-sacrifice like that. So this is just the biggest, like, I kind of ever had. Like, I had to make it. So this was like the biggest step in my transition all my life. It was a couple years ago. So I'm just all and thankful. But I'm going to finish letting her talk. I'm sorry, guys.
Made religious theology that subjugates a woman under a man and says he's your ruler. That's the man-made religious lie. The same religious lie that brought us low, that brought on death, he, me, myself, and I.
Right. And so I'm here to say, standing on more knowledge, or your more in your spirit that inside of you, women, the ones that have through it all, when people trying to tell you crazy, when men left you, when they abandoned you, when friends left you because they were scared, they didn't want to be around you, you act like when you was crucified person, they had to be alone. And see, people think I'm alone because I don't like to be around. When I talk about isolation, separation, it was a must. Through my journey in time and life, I had to. It's been several times I had to for months. I wasn't really able to socialize. It's not because I didn't want to. It's because of the trashness and the things that I was seeing in the dark and the weakness of life. So sometimes, and even in my own sins, I was doing with cigarettes, smoking and stuff, just smoking cigarettes, you know what I'm saying? Like, frustrated, like agitated because of things that around me, couldn't really find someone inside that agreed with the same concept or morality. Even in my sin, I was like that. And it was like, I'm like, oh, forget it, and I was just like not accepted. So it pushed me to do things that I probably, shouldn't have. And like I said, I cleared the way and understand that. But overall, I was like, you know what? It's going to pay off. I kept telling myself, oh, well. And to just hear that it's a reward for that, just to hear that truly when I got deeper in the Bible, not since I was a little girl that knew and believed, but actually started getting more, just kept that faith in Christ, because I always believed in the Messiah. I always believed that story, you know, far as I strayed out, but not, I always believed that, but I did lost my full spark, that really love that I had for him, and love for wanting to be better and wanting to continue, you know, that in me, you know. So I just was doing it, but I lost it through the road and stuff. I kind of was disconnected from him mentally, and it's like now I'm like back, and it's like whoa. And so, and I'm excited because I'm like, this is actually reward for this. When people tell me it's not a reward for being righteous, it's not a reward for being good, it's not a reward for being moral. Nobody, yeah, I was right. Nobody gonna want me. Yeah, I'm gonna be stereotyped as this and that. Yeah, I was the, yeah. But now I can see what, now can y'all see, or will y'all see why? Not popping myself up. I'm not exerting myself. As I told y'all before, I'm gonna let the Most High do it. It says wisdom shall praise herself and give her works that is due. But y'all, I don't even want it. I'm me. But it's like that part, like, I'm not exerting myself. Never have, never will. I can only tell you my truth. But if my truth feels like that, then I'm sorry. You don't have to understand it. I'm sorry. But I don't want that.
Is not going to be the same thing that saves you. It's not. And so, where was it heading? All right. So John was told not to utter, right, those words. But I know where I was going. I was going to Romans, because it speaks of these daughters that were rejected in the beginning. All right? And if you're one of these daughters, God's going to have indicated it to you in some way, I believe. Now,
I
verse
believe
15,
it.
what does it say? It
And
says,
I'm going
for
to
the
continue to
casting
believe
away of
it.
them be the reconciling of the
I
world.
believe it.
So they were cast off to reconcile all the nations back that had turned on God. This was the purpose of the casting down. What shall the receiving of them be but life from the dead? It is only the spirit known as woman, the daughters, that gives life. That's your understanding. Revelation 12 is the sign of the virgin giving life to the body. That's what she does. That's what her role is, to give life. All right? And and she represents the spirit that does that. No man can do this. No man can birth a body. Why now do I see every man in travail, and every face turn pale? You know, it says Israel's face will no longer be pale, because what it's alluding to is that she actually delivers her children. But you see his face in Jeremiah 30 turned pale, and every man is in travail, because you see they're trying to deliver the children through a lying man-made theology. They can't deliver nothing. God's creation testifies to the Godhead as being male and female. This very creation testifies to that. And it is the woman that gives life. And it is her womb that shapes it. It is not no man's hand that shapes it. God's creation testifies to that. It says the tabernacle below testifies to the tabernacles above. There's two, not one. Because we tabernacle in a female body, not a male. And though it was a portion of his, it still is different. She is built, it says. She is built up. And Mother God says, I will build up the daughters on. That's a reference to her government on this earth, which is a representation to the woman as the spirit that gives life. All right? By the laws of heaven. That's what it is. All right. Now, let's go to Ezekiel to get a deeper understanding. Because you get your cherubim or your cherubim here. And I wanted to focus on one thing. And we also looked at when their wings was joined one to another. You get woman, wife there for one, I think. You have to look up the word one to another. All right? And the another is a sister. All right? So, and you're getting your twin allegory. If you look up Gemini, Castor and Pollux is mentioned, I believe, in the book of Acts as well. They try to say it's two suns being shown in the heavens in that picture. Keep running your words out. It takes you to the feminine, a daughter. So it's telling you actually it's the twofold spirit that we also hit on in Ezekiel 34. It says every woman would not lack her mate. When you go look the word made up, there's not a man there. All right? It is referencing a fellow woman, it says. So the idea is that we are being taught by our sister spirit. That's kind of the understanding of the picture of Gemini. She's pulling us up. She's teaching us to stand. And the mother allegory is in there as well. Mother and daughter's in there as well. But the Gemini, they want to make it two men. No.
And I just want to say that my earthly father, the one that, you know, on my birth certificate, which is my father, I already knew. I haven't seen nobody else, as far as my mom been with him. He's a Gemini. You know, Tupac's a Gemini. Just saying that. And they say Libras and Gemini. That's all. But then Aries is mine. But I'm with Aries. But Aries is my opposition. Gemini was my compatibility. So that's why me and my husband, we have good things alike. He's Aries and I'm Libra. Supposedly I'm going to go off of y'all horoscope this time so y'all can get that understanding. But I know the true horoscope about the raven and different things of my Indian ancestries. Only for the knowledge and understanding I get out of it. I don't really get into all those type of things. But I understand.
Or even a male and female. All indications of the twins indicate that it is two females. Everything that I've hit. Such as in Ezekiel, when it speaks of the glory and their wings being joined one to another, you have wife, woman, and the other is a sister. And so there you get your Gemini. You have your twin allegory in Song of Songs with your teeth above and below. Again, it says everyone has birth, none have failed to birth. And that means us, a twin, the twofold spirit that's promised to these daughters, and they have promised the twofold. And so that's kind of what you're looking at in your allegory there. But here in Ezekiel, with the glory of the cherubim, I can't remember, I used to know, it clearly identifies this as Israel, as the heifer. Their legs were straight, their feet were like those of a calf. Now they want to put the calf male every time. And gleamed like burnished bronze. This is a reference to Israel, and in particular, the daughters of Israel as the glory of God. That's what it's a reference to. The bronze, the burnished bronze, they sparkle like burnished bronze. It takes you back to the seraphim that promised the bump up. All right, they promised a higher portion, a larger portion, all right? But with the feet of a calf, all of them had the feet of a calf. It's representing the nation of Israel, your heifer. And the men tried to twist this many, many times. They always put he. Even on animals, a he. It's amazing. It just amazes me. But watch what it says in Jeremiah 34:18. And I did a study on this. It's a video I posted a long time ago, quite a while ago. And this is what I discovered. It says here in Jeremiah 34:18. It says, those who have violated my covenant and have not fulfilled the terms of the covenant they made before me, I will treat like the calf they cut in two and then walked between its pieces. Okay. So obviously she's referring to a covenant here. God Almighty, Mother God gives life. No man does this. No man shapes a woman. He can say he does all he wants in man-built words and religious theology. God's truth testifies to what the truth is. And the law, the man-made law, designed to subjugate us. We've had to fight for every right we ever got. They didn't fight for anything, did they? No, they just fight us. And say, oh, well, no, these laws states that a man can do this, this, and this. Well, they wrote them. That's why they can do this, this, and this. And that's your Torah. That's the covenant between your harlot and your fallen Adam. All right, Christ's covenant was with daughter Zion, the cute David that he exalts upon his shoulder. She's the government of God and the ruler. And it says they violated. It says, and I will treat you like the calf they cut into and then walked between its pieces. Now, the calf here, they want you to believe it's male. were the only covenant I could find, and I looked, that involved the cutting of a calf or a cow or a heifer in the midst. The only one I could locate was found in Genesis 15:9. You will not find any other covenant where no calf that is male is cut in the midst. It's a heifer representing the nation of Israel. And the reason why the parts were divided, as far as I can understand, and is that it's representing the two covenants. And she says, you divided my pleasant land, right? And she is referring to woman. That's why in Genesis 15:9 you have a heifer, you have a she-goat, you have, because the daughters of Zion are represented as she-goats, and they were divided, they were split. Then you had the heifer, Israel itself became split. Then you have the ram, the men in Israel became split, all right? And this became a slow weeding out of the righteous spirit to the point where she was completely cut off. And now men are all, very few of them are circumcised. And if they are, they have no idea why. They teach, again, part of that, a religious lie. The truth.
Exactly. So at the end, that's why I was saying you would meet your true spirit spouse or whatever this thing gonna go, like the true marriage between the sons of men and the daughters is that symbolization, sister and brother meeting again and becoming one. Because the wicked man and woman got between it. And so these people you marry in flesh or was flesh, that's why Christ said we ain't gonna be given in marriage, we ain't gonna be worried about the former things. So that's why I said don't put nobody, your husband, your spouse, your children above me, because you don't understand that that's the great commandment. And so, but when you fall in idolatry and harlotry and the man and woman want to result themselves with each other, even if it's in a marriage or whatever, that don't mean God ordained it. Like I said, it doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that's who you're supposed to be with or that's what it was supposed to be. It doesn't mean that. So, just give it an understanding. Do that mean that y'all go cheat or convey or adultery? Now that y'all know this information, no. You have to do it for whatever it is, but you can change your mindset and your spirit to be one with Christ, and then you can understand to be part of the marriage that's coming, the everlasting covenant. You're not buying yourself to a fleshly agreement or covenant, to man ways and man laws and doing those things just because of a title, because it's just a title. But like I told you, you have to earn that as a woman and man. It's a process you have to go through. It's not just getting with a man and a woman saying, "Oh, I'm gonna be married and we're gonna." It's so much more than that. It was always so much more than that. But this is what happened.
Of the covenant is that when Mother God made this covenant with Abraham in Genesis 15:9, that he would, part of that was that he was to cut the foreskin away, and that symbolized that he would not chase after a harlot spirit so he could rule himself. He was to cut that foreskin away to symbolize he would keep the covenant with Mother God and her righteous daughter Zion. All right? That's what that covenant symbolizes. And so she says to him, you divided my pleasant land. That's what you did. You built up a harlot stronghold known as daughter Babylon. And you said, razz her to the ground. Nobody will ever know she exists. And they don't. I mean, it's really quite amazing. And that's why you get in allegory in Galatians 4. We'll keep hitting at this till we get it together. What does it say in Galatians 4? Actually, some translations will tell you right out. It says, which things are an allegory? For these, it will say, to women. That's what it'll say in many of your translations. Verse 24 of Galatians 4. Which things are an allegory? For these are the two covenants. These women represents two covenants. The one from the Mount Sinai with gender bondage, which is Hagar. And for this Hagar is in Mount Sinai in Arabia and answereth to Jerusalem. This is your law. Which now is and is in bondage with her children. So we got the yoke of the law on us, right? As these children. Verse 26. But daughter Zion, mother Jerusalem, which is above is free, which is the mother of us all, which we were told Eve was the mother of all living. We were told Sarah, also in this chapter of Galatians 4, was the other woman in this chapter, the other covenant, which represented the righteous spirit, that you were not to make into a harlot or cut her away and say you want nothing to do with her, which is what we're under. We are under religious lying theology of mankind who wants to rule over you. And they're called men of Baal, they're called men of Belial. They do not teach the truth. They teach a theology that tickles their ears, that tells you they're kings. There's no such thing as a queen.
Some of them literally,
There's no such thing as woman represented as the Holy Spirit or the Holy One of Israel, the daughter Zion. And yet that's exactly what we have when you understand your allegory in the Bible. So in we're going to go to Micah 7 and take a look right quick here, how this whole thing plays out. Because oftentimes I'll be reading comments sometimes and they'll be saying, well, us men's got to take up that harlot. No, it ain't. It's not you men that's got to do it. It's the daughter Zion that's appointed to do it. It says she will strike through kings in the day of her wrath. All right? And part of that striking through kings is taking this harlot spirit out of their heart. All right? That they've exalted in their heart, which we're told about in Isaiah 47. She says, no one sees me. I'm never going to be widowless. I'm never going to be childless. That's the Agar under bondage. She says, they're in love with my doctrine. It's like honey on their tongues. But then the daughter grows up in Song of Songs. The daughter Zion grows up because it appears that she was very young at the time that this took place and that she was rejected. But she grows up and her breast becomes as towers. And she begins to nourish her children with the milk of heaven. All right? And her doctrine is found as honey on the tongue of Christ, of the new Adam. All right? He's in love with her and her doctrine. He doesn't desire to use her for a doormat. He says, she's my beloved. I don't treat her as if she's less. I don't treat her as if she was gave to me for me to tell what to do. Because he was taught. He was cleansed by Israel himself. He was the only begotten son that the daughters represent as the heifers burned to ashes brought forth. And as such, they restored back their place because mother took her wrath out on this son. All right? That's what you get in your understanding. So, and it says, in the day that thy walls are to be built, in that day shall the decree be far removed. Okay, I'm going to go to Micah 7. But the daughter Zion, there's some contention also with the spelling of the word milk in original Hebrew and the word king. Because there's one passage that suggests you get your nourishment from your king. And it's just so ridiculous to think that you get your milk from your king. You don't get your milk from your king. You get your milk from your mother, from your queen, who nourishes you with the truth of heaven. All right? These are your allegories. She births you. All right? And she does that through truth, which is how we are purchased. We are purchased through truth. And according to Isaiah 74, it's Psalm 74, she says, you were begotten of me long ago. I purchased you a long time ago. And she's speaking to her daughters of Zion that got cast down. She says, I purchased you long ago through the truth. That's how you became mine. All right? So you need to understand. And then there's an oath that the daughter Zion it's her oath that she has to restore the children back. All right? And that oath is a long-standing oath. All right? And so that's all in the scriptures once you understand your word and your terminology. All right. So in Micah 7, what does it say in verse, I believe it's 4. Let's look here. Yeah. Not 4. It's verse 3. We'll read a different rendering to get just some of a better understanding. It says, their hands are on what is evil, to do it well. The prince and the judge ask for a bribe, and the great man utters the evil desire of his soul. Thus, they weave it together. You see, they've weaved they've weaved a lie. It became a global lie, which was that religious lying theology known as Old Testament law, which man wrote by his own hand because he was in covenant with the harlot spirit daughter Babylon to do so. And so from there, the lying religious theology fed into the four corners of the world and became the principle that we became founded upon. It's a lie. It's a lie. And Mother says, I'm going to tear your wall down that you daubed up with lies. All right? Because he locked in the harlot spirit that became known as the key of Solomon, you see, which is in total opposition to the key of David. All right. So anybody's watched my videos, you're getting all of these allegories. For the 2 or 3 people that's watched my videos, you're understanding them now, or you should, to a degree. So they weaved it together, you know, and they think they're never going to get caught. And what does God call them here? It says the best of them is like a briar, and the most upright of them a thorn hedge. The day of your watchman of your punishment has come. Now their confusion is at hand. So you see, the Bible speaks of the snare that they laid for these daughters to become ensnared by, to have a bond on our neck. That's what we ended up with, a religious lie on our neck that keeps us in bondage to him, to a man, all right, as if he's our God. He. No, he's not our God. Mother is our God. She's the one that birthed us. She's the one that gave life to us, and she created us. That's what Mother does. And so she says here, the best of them are briars. That takes us back to the cursing of Adam's grand, and to the wife that he hearkened to. That wasn't Eve. That was the harlot that he wanted, which again takes you back to the serpent allegory, all right? And she says, they accuse me of things that I know nothing about. And that's in Psalm 50, when you read and you get your deeper understanding of the allegories. And she says, now I'm going to set it in order for you. And I'm going to tell you what really happened. You cast off a marriage covenant with me, the righteous spirit, for one with the harlot, because she tickled your ears. And you thought, hey, this way I get to be ruler and king and do what I want to do. And I can build myself up. And he did, with thick clay. That means with riches that never belonged to him. Never. And empowers himself. That's what he does against you. And puts a yoke on your neck. That's what he did. And so,
from this man.
Where was I going? Psalm 50.
But the Most High is over everything. So I always say, you know, the Most High allowed things like he allowed Satan.
Thou givest thy mouth to evil, and thy tongue frameth deceit. Verse 20. Thou sittest and speakest against thy own sister or wife. That's what he did. That's what Adam did. Thou slanderest thine own mother's daughter. That's what he did. These things hast thou done, and I kept silent. We have. We daughters have been silenced. We don't speak up. We don't go in and look for the deeper truth of who we truly are and who we're supposed to be. We're silenced. We don't speak. But she says this. Thou speakest against thy mother's daughter. These things hast thou done, and I kept silence. Thou thoughtest that I was altogether such as one as you. You thought I was going to keep on doing just what you told me. All right? But I will reprove thee now. She's in court now. All right? And set them in order before thine eyes. So this leads us back to the assembler in Ecclesiastes 12 called your preacher. Go look it up. Go look the word up if you're able to. And it's your female assembler, which is also Asaph in the Psalms written by David, known as your gatherer. It's your spirit gathering the truth. That's what it is here. And she says, now I will reprove you, and I will set them in order before your eyes. Now consider this, ye that forget God. God here is a reference to the daughter of Zion, number 136, who's sitting as the glory in Isaiah 6:2, the Lord. Now consider this, ye that forget God, lest I tear you in pieces, and there be none to deliver. You see, you're getting that change of nature mentioned of as Uriel which then changed in nature. All right? Before, she was the friend, she was your great help, and then she becomes your, I don't know how to say it without being mistook, but certainly if you've spent any time in the Word of God, you know God says, I will come against them, all right? And so this is what your job becomes. She comes against them. She begins to come against them. Though she is represented as the fiery serpent in Isaiah and here. And that is the fiery serpent that bit, I believe, Paul on the back of the hand, wherein we are also told that he was took to the third heaven. Now, they do not connect these two incidences together at all. It's going to have to be a reasoning that allows you to do that. But I was reading in Micah 7, so let's finish. So they become a briar. These men who weave this lie together, all they're fit for is to be set on fire. The fire that sets them on fire is the law of heaven, the truth, which shoots from her mouth. And you get all those understanding in, it's not considered canon, in 2 Ezekiel 13. And it is a woman, it is a female, it is not a son rising up from the midst of the sea, meaning people, it's a daughter that's doing this. And it says, put no trust in a neighbor, have no confidence in a friend, and the doors of your mouth from her who lies in your arms, or him. Those men always like to make it, oh, they're the victims. That's what this religious theology does.
I've been
It
around
makes
all
them
my
the
life.
poor victims while putting them in charge, and you the one to blame, and a religious yoke on your neck. That's what it does. So for the son treats the father with contempt, the daughter rises up against her mother. This is your sword dividing. Christ says, I come not to bring peace, but a sword. All right?
You're on point.
So this
I
is what
already
you're
spoke
looking at,
about
the
these
sword.
things.
For
Y'all
the
go
son
check
treats
it
the
out.
father with contempt, the daughter rises up against her mother, the daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. And a man's enemies are the men of his house, his own house. But as for me, therefore I will look unto the Lord, I will wait for the God of my salvation, my God will hear me. These are the daughters crying out to the daughter Zion, who is not yet inhabiting them. But that's what's to take place. Rejoice not against me, O mine enemy, when I fall. Now this is where it goes feminine, and you get those men going, we gotta rise up against her. No, we gotta rise up against her. And you men out there who thinks that a man is everything. He. You read it in the comments that gets made, it's ridiculous. And anytime any woman tries to bring in the feminine, they get mad. They bring this up.
That serpent
As if
in them.
that's God. That's not God. Might is not God. The Spirit is. That's what it tells you. It says this physical offers nothing. Nothing to it. That's what it says. It says it's the Spirit.
Yeah.
Rejoice not against me, O my enemy. This is the daughter Zion addressing her enemy, the harlot spirit, daughter Babylon, whom man exalts in his heart and thinks he's going to win and cast her down. Oh, she says, I will never be widowless. I will never be childless. I'm hid in his heart. Do you even know you got her hid in your heart? You exalt a he, and think that that's right, and it tickles your ears. It is like honey on your tongue. Don't tell me it ain't.
Proof is in
But
and
she
put.
says,
No words.
He'll never see me. I'm his.
What's in your heart shall you speak out, right? What Christ said.
I will bear the indignation of the Lord because I have sinned against her.
Their spirit going to bear witness against itself.
My cause and execute judgment for me. She will bring me forth to the light, and I shall behold her righteousness. So this is the remnant of Israel, who in the beginning were known as the daughters of Zion, who were the rulers in Israel, who actually was responsible for ruling the entire earth, which is also going to be known as Israel. And that's told us in Isaiah 27. It says, for the seed, for Israel will fill the world with her seed. Her, not his. The Shulamite says, my own vineyard I have neglected. They're hers. They were always her children. but they became known as his when she started teaching his religious theology. And the sun that made her dark was the spirit Babylon. That's what's making her black, all right? It means to be empty and without the doctrine of truth. That's what it is. That sun up there isn't male, and the moon isn't female.
Yeah.
Again, another religious lie taught by men to exalt themselves. That's what that's about. Instead of
But you see why I have to use the pictures? Because this is what they believe. So I have to use mythology. I have to use these things to connect with the men. And it said you have to use these things. But it's okay because Hebrew was pictographic language anyway. So I'll use it for you. It's no problem. But when I said it inside of my bloodline video, I said she has dark understanding of the light. All right. Her pigmentation come from the sun because she absorbed it. So of course we know that the original people will be that. But it doesn't just stop at the original woman. So I have the understanding of what? Creation. Dark. The moon, the sun. So yeah, you right. You right in a lot of ways. But I can give it to you better because I'm me.
going in and trying to understand everything and put it together. So I have sinned against her, not him, until she plead my cause, and she does. She's the one pleading our cause. And execute judgment for me. She will bring me forth to the light, and I shall behold her righteousness. Then she, and it does say she here, that is my enemy shall see it. This is the harlot spirit that man exalts in his heart. By extension, that means he exalts himself in his religious lies. That's what he exalts. And his laws over us, which is designed to yoke the righteous daughters. That's what it's designed to do.
Yep.
And so she said, then she that is mine enemy shall see it, and shame shall cover her, which said unto me, where is the Lord thy God? So they can mock us. They always did. They always mocked the righteous one. And they were always even allotted a time to do that, mocking as a testing of the righteous. I mean, it says that Joseph was put in bondage. He was took down to Egypt, and they mocked him. His brothers mocked him and said, oh, look, see, this is coming to fruition, is it? Look at you. And it wasn't until 20 years later that the truth played out.
Yep.
So you can mock, and that's what she says here. She says to me, these harlot daughters bound to this religious lie and thinking they're sanctimoniously right, and I've hit them. I was one of them. Where's the Lord thy God? So, you're saying all this, but nothing's coming to pass. And those of us out there who are speaking on things in the Word that we have dug up, know to be the truth, but nobody else has put the time into it. This is what they're doing to us. They point at us and they say, it's not coming to pass, but what we're saying is, that's that sanctimonious, and it's clay over their eyes. And that God promises to take that dark covering away and expose the truth. So where is the Lord thy God? Mine eyes shall behold her. Yeah, where is the Lord thy God? Mine eyes shall behold her. Now shall she be trodden down as the mire of the streets. Okay, so let's read this again. Then my enemy will see, and she will be covered with shame. This takes us to the verse in 2nd Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 15 and 16. Shameful spewing will come upon his foreskin, because he's got the harlot hid in his heart. And that's who's in view here, the harlot spirit. And the daughter Zion is saying, you say, where's my God? Where's mother? Where's mother God? The image that I'm made in, which just represents the spirit that's going to cleanse you, or not cleanse you in this case. So then my enemy will see, and she will be covered with shame, the one who said to me, where is the Lord your God? My eyes will look at her in triumph, the daughter Zion. At that time she will be trampled like mud in the streets. These harlots who bows to a man-made religious theology of a he, and teaches a man is going to deliver children when the Bible clearly shows you it is woman that does that. And they just can't let it go. They've been brainwashed for so long, and that yoke on their neck for so long, they don't know how to live without it. In that day thy walls are to be built, in that day shall the decree be far removed. So this is the daughter who finally puts up her wall. She actually locks in the righteous spirit. She begins to protect her children. It says her breasts are like talent. And mother says to her, if you become a wall, we will build, a palace upon her. And so that's what you're looking at, the building of our bodies. It's the allegory to the woman's body, the pleasant land being restored, which is what the day of the Lord is about, the controversy of Zion. The controversy of Zion was about the dividing of the pleasant land, which was represented by woman, her daughters of Zion, that were gave in covenant to man to teaching the laws of heaven. He didn't want those laws. He cast her off, said, we'll cut those cords, those bands, and we'll make our own. And this way we'll put them on her. All right? Because we're going to rule and we're going to be the kings. That's what he says. So in that day also, he shall come even to thee from Assyria, from the fortified cities, from the fortress even to the river. Okay, I'm not going to go into that. I don't remember reading it. But I wanted to bring in this here that it does say she. And it is daughter Zion. Micah 7 speaks all about the daughter Zion. Micah, the book of Micah, speaks all about the daughter of Zion. Speaks about her being restored back. The first dominion always belonged to her. That means the governance of the entire kingdom always belonged to these daughters of Zion. And Job says, he says, I made a covenant with mine eyes. Why then should I think upon a maid? For what portion of God is there from above? The inheritance of the Almighty from on high. These daughters are called mother's inheritance, and they're her inheritance because she indwells us with her spirit. They become known as the daughters of Zion on earth, but out there they're known as mother. That's what it looks like more and more. So I also wanted to just briefly, I got to see how far I am. Okay, I'm an hour. But I wanted to talk briefly also on that Levite who went chasing after his concubine. And this is what it says about the concubine. And I'm going to shift this around because this is a bald-faced lie for anybody who's able to reason anything out. So it says, and it came to pass in those days when there was no king in Israel, that there was a certain Levite sojourning on the side of Mount Ephraim who took to him a concubine out of Bethlehem, Judah. Okay. Bethlehem in Judah. Okay, so they got that stuff weird. And I'm going to say, I've been studying Lachish, because according to the Bible, it was what took place in Lachish that actually led to the downfall of Israel. And it seems to link back to this Levite here, all right? This is where the downfall of Israel seems to be linked to. This Levite here in Judges 19. And if you want to backtrack a chapter, I think it is, or a chapter ahead, I can't remember. This is where the men of Dan, who were from Lachish, decided to take this Levite for their king, ruler, I can't remember, for the one that would give them guidance. Well, watch what this Levite's character was. And he was a bugger from day one. And this is what he did. And it says, and his concubine played the whore against him. Now let's reason this out just for 5 seconds for anybody with a brain. And his concubine. Let's define concubine, shall we? I should have had this up. Definition of concubine. A woman who lives with a man but has a lower status than his wife or wives. Are we reasoning yet? Or do I have to help you go all the way with it here? And his concubine played the whore against him. We getting it yet? And went away from him unto her father's house. Now, it doesn't say how she played the harlot. It just says she went to her father's house. You know how she played the harlot? She left him. That's how she played the harlot. Now, you understand, if she's his concubine, this Levite was a married man. He had a wife. So who was the real horror here? Who was really playing the horror here? It wasn't her. This was a maiden girl, and she was desperate to get away from a wicked man who was abusing her. And it is testified to when you read to what he did to her. He abused her. When the men, he didn't want to camp in a particular city, and the servant from the concubine's house tried to encourage him. No, we shouldn't go that way. Because I believe the servant's heart, he wanted to protect this maiden that was from his owner's house, his master's house. And that would have been this little damsel's father. And the father even tried to stop it. He tried to keep him there for as long as he could. Because I think he was trying to figure out a way to rescue his daughter. And he just couldn't do it. And so this wicked Levite, he's in power because he's a Levite, number one. So he must be right in everything he's saying and doing. And so he takes back his concubine. They decide to tarry a night in a city or in a place that I believe this Levite purposely had set up. He knew what was going to take place. These men come. He hands over the concubine. They rape her all night. She finally crawls to the threshold of the door and he says, "Get up." This is what he says. He had to chase after this concubine because he was this was about him being empowered and empowering the religious laws that men at this time was trying to set up in Israel. This was the downfall of Israel when they were dividing the land, the pleasant land. So this girl was not technically a concubine. She should have never been with this Levite. He was a married man. God's law states 1 and 1. It never stated 1 and many. But this was the tearing down. This is what these men were trying to do here. They were trying to establish the religious law, all right, and them as the gods of it. And so here this poor little damsel makes her way back to her father's house. And so he spends time there. Then on the way back through, they decide to go into another place here, and the man rapes this poor little damsel all night, killing her in the end. And when she finally crawls to the threshold, her lovely little Levite says, "Get up." And when she won't get up, he's got the nerve to blame the men for this, that had done this thing. No, he set this all up. Don't tell me you didn't. Read it. Read what this man was like. And use your brain. Now, watch what it says, though. He did. This is about the dividing of the pleasant land, okay? Because daughter Zion, in some, it's just a small understanding that I have right now, actually became the concubine. She was not the wife. She became the concubine in a matter of speaking, okay? And so this concubine is actually representing the daughters on it as the pleasant land in a sense, okay? Now, what he does, watch what he says. He says to her, he says, "When her master arose in the morning and opened the doors of the house and went out to go on his way, then behold, his concubine was lying at the doorway of the house with her hands on the threshold. He said to her, 'Get up and let us go.'" Yeah, that's what you say to a woman that's been raped all night that you think something about, right? Yeah, this man was the harlot. This man was the whore. He was a married man, chasing after a damsel, a poor damsel that was trying to get away from him. And look what he ends up doing to her. Killing her. She's dead. And he knew exactly what he was doing, because this is what he does. Watch what he does. This takes us to the dividing of the pleasant land. I don't care what anybody says. So he says, "Get up and let us go." But there was no answer. Then he placed her on the donkey, and the man arose and went to his home. Oh, such a godly Levite this man was. When he entered his house, he took a knife and laid hold of his concubine. Now understand, she's dead at this point. Get that through your head. And laid hold of his concubine and cut her in 12 pieces, limb by limb, and sent her throughout the territory of Israel. You see? You see what they were doing to the pleasant land. They were divvying her up. That's what the men were doing. And when you read this all through, this chapter, Judges 19, now we're going to go through here. One chapter, go ahead, one chapter, because I believe it's at the end of chapter 20. Yeah, this is where the men of Lachish, all right, and that's where the sins, it says, took place. That's where the beginning of the sins really took place for Israel and brought the downfall. And it's interesting because it all leads back to this Levite, all right? But watch what it says at the end of this chapter. This is what it says. It says, okay, it's not there. Was it that verse? Maybe it's up here. Maybe it was chapter 19. Let's go back one. Okay? So we'll go back down. I'll look at it again. Sorry about that. Oh, it probably is in the previous chapter. But the men when he sends it out these limbs of the concubine, it says, all who saw it said, nothing like this has ever happened. Ever happened. Or been seen from the day when the sons of Israel came up from the land of Egypt to this day. Consider it, take counsel, and speak up. All right. So you understand, this was about what they were doing to the women of Israel. This is what brought the downfall of Israel. What the men were trying to put in play as religious law. Okay. It's not there. It's not there. It may be 21 if we go far. Okay. But when you get through all of this Lachish and this Levite priest and what they were doing to the women and to the religious law to do with the marriage covenant, now understand in Jeremiah it says this. It says in Jeremiah 5 verse 8, it says they are well-fed, lusty stallions, each neighing for another man's wife. And that's what this Levite was doing. Technically, a man is supposed to have one wife. A wife is supposed to have one husband. That's the law according to God. But what this Levite was actually trying to do, he was trying to change the laws of Israel and make it acceptable to have many, many concubines. Because a man is just so great, he's permitted that. But this is what it says when you get through 19, 20, and 21, or even 18 to 21. You read those chapters to do really with Lachish, Dan, the tribe of Dan, the tribe of Ephraim, and this Levite with his concubine. And what it says at the end of Judges 21, this is the verse that you really need to look at. It says, in those days there was no king in Israel, and every man did that which was right in his own eyes, what he wanted. And they were. And the Levite and what he was doing evidenced that. And these actually became some of the founding religious laws found in the Old Testament that actually became part of it. That's what it's telling you.
Including, if any man has 2 wives when war. I stated that scripture on one of my video descriptions showing y'all that, okay, let's lose some reasoning here. If Moses was ordained by God, common sense tell you he would have had 1 wife. Isaac had 1 wife. Abraham had 1 wife. And when she died, he was allowed to marry Keturah. Alright, so we know the story of Jacob. Like I said, the forefathers of those 3 right there, we already got understanding about what happened. But overall, it is only 1. And through that, Isaac was the only one to have 1. But that never was the case. But that's what they have put it inside the mistranslation. Because you got to understand, this Torah and the one we know of past is not the same, because this book has been mistranslated. Okay, so we have to keep in mind there from the original text itself anyway. So, but we take this as study guides and understand what exactly happened. The Spirit is leading us now. So I think this is a good thing. This is a very good thing.
I mean, study the word. It doesn't just plop in your lap. And if it does, then you better question it. If it just plops in your lap. If you don't have to work and you don't have to think about things and reason about them, then you better wonder what's really going on. It's probably a religious lie, all right? So, there's some of it. Quit saying the serpent is wicked.
Like I said, y'all can research, go do your evidence. I'm here as a guide, as I said, and most of y'all have some of these books I've quoted out of or put the scripture. So this is a guide. I'm not here to tell you what you like to hear. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear all the time, but I'm going to tell you what you need to hear and what is truthful, and get you to spark your mind to go do things and put people that are on the same truth-seeking pathway for us all to come to an understanding. And like I say, you do your own, because I do it. If I listen to somebody else, I know how to do that. I do it, because you just really can't trust with all this decision. Needs to have your own evidence and your documents, and actually correspond with people that you know on the path, and the Spirit will lead you there to all things. So y'all just keep on trusting the Spirit to unlock your minds when you're going and reading in these books and things like that, and you'll come to the understanding.
When the seraphim is identified as a fiery serpent, all right? And it just, we're just not using our brains anymore.
Yeah, technology has stopped that so much.
We're just buying into whatever this person says, instead of going in and finding it for ourselves through the Spirit's help.
Yeah.
And that's what we're told to do. Sorry if I sounded harsh. Sometimes I feel harsh.
It's okay. It's okay. AKA now it's cold. Miss Ruth A.B. All right. Thank you for your another profound revelations of your studyings and part. As I say, if you ever come across, and you know, my channel's here as well. I see you got the comments off. I do too. You know, a lot more people do, because people just really not getting this truth that's coming out. They really want to stick with this he image. They really want to be lost, but that's on them. But for those who's been waiting and been wanting, they look. Hey, you got people that already done the third stuff, but we still tell you to go seek and go down. But you got people that say you can get it freely off the gate. You know what I'm saying? And go and come back and let me know if I say something right, if I did. So you don't really have to, you know, do a lot of things, but you can do a lot of things as well to add to this and support to get this, you know, out to the world. Now, on the next one, I was going to go over the, like I told y'all, the Miriam and the Black Bible history, the article. I was going to read this 5-page one, but due to it's a 2 hours and 42 minutes right now, and I'm going to have to start another video, which I didn't want to start another video partially with this. That meant I did want to just get back on what I was on, kind of. But I'll go ahead and do this one on the video 5 Sunday. I'll start working on video 5, and I'll make sure I start it off with reading a little article and giving you some of Miriam background, and then I'll start like 4 my revelation videos from sisters and brothers, and I'll just start on that Sunday, and I'll put that for 7 days after that. So, but right now, I'm gonna go ahead and post this video 4, which I did 3 yesterday, so that's 2 right now, and have that coming up for y'all. As one is premiering now, which is, so I got 2 premiering today right now at this time. So I thank y'all for tuning in and getting some more insight and some divine wisdom and some instructions, some guidance. And I thank you all for just being patient with me. And I hope y'all have a great Sabbath. It's sundown, and I'm going to get ready to eat me some small dinner, maybe some soup, and relax. But I thank y'all for tuning in. Till next time.